Chapter 260. In the end, the group of gigolos was sent back. They didn't understand. Why didn't boss like them? Didn't they say that humans love power and sex? Could it be that they weren't good-looking enough? That must be it. Otherwise, why didn't boss like them? They had to find better-looking ones for boss. The monsters searched for good-looking gigolos among the humans. Meanwhile, the god race and Dongjing were locked in a fierce battle. In the end, the battlefront was pulled to the mortal realm. Every day, the monsters came to report where the two gigolos were fighting, where they suffered, and how much of their food reserves were destroyed. Shisheng felt stifled. A bunch of idiots. Don't they know how to fight back? Finally, Shisheng couldn't stand the constant chatter of these idiots. He led the monsters to the front lines. The two sides were confronting each other, and the atmosphere was tense. Shisheng led a group of people, a group of monsters, over aggressively. Both sides looked at them at the same time. Shisheng sized Zihuan up. Has he recovered? She thought Zihuan cared about the female lead. Didn't he choose to sacrifice the female lead in the face of his own strength? Unfortunately, perhaps. Qingguan, you still dare to come? The people beside Zihuan pointed at Shisheng and scolded. It's all this disaster's fault. Why wouldn't I dare to come? Shisheng raised his brows. Even if I didn't cause the god realm to collapse, Dongjing would have attacked sooner or later. Do you think you can escape this calamity? Qingguan, don't be too arrogant. You used despicable means to frame ancient god Zihuan. And that's why you were so impudent in the god realm. Now that ancient god Zihuan is fine, what else can you do? Oh, it's fine, Shisheng replied indifferently. Then a malicious smile appeared on his face. Is Yu Yao still alive? You let him defile Yu Yao just so he could recover? Is this what you call justice? The faces of the immortals on the other side turned ugly. She already expected this? We're doing this for the greater good, someone said after a long pause. Don't make it sound so nice. Isn't it all about sacrificing others for your own sake? If you did it, then so be it. I won't laugh at you if you admit it, Shisheng sneered. Aren't you tired of looking for a righteous excuse after doing it? To sum it up, he was a weakling. If you have the strength to go against the whole world, you don't need any excuses. Zihuan spoke coldly. Qingguan, don't change the subject. What are you doing here today? Do you really think you've recovered? Shisheng's eyes curved. His voice was very clear, but it contained endless malice. That malice was too obvious, and everyone present could hear it. What do you mean? Zihuan stared at Shisheng and frowned. He could already use his divine power freely. Shisheng smiled even more brilliantly, as if his calm eyes were tinged with happiness. You can call those little guys yin and yang gu. When yin and yang combine, the gu will be formed. The man and woman infected by this gu would uncontrollably want to get close to each other. After they mate, that would be the real yin-yang gu. Of course, if a person's willpower was strong enough and did not mate, the yin-yang gu would die soon after. This kind of gu was very easy to get rid of before mating. What was difficult was that they could not control the fear and desire in their hearts. She had discovered this thing in the devil realm, when she was in Feng Xi's realm. Of course she would collect such a rare and strange thing. Zihuan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. When yin and yang combine, the gu will be formed. These words continuously flashed through Zihuan's mind. Qingguan, don't be an alarmist. Ancient god Zihuan is already fine. Someone next to her shouted in self-deception. As long as you're happy. Shisheng shrugged. It's not like I'm the one who dies in the end. The people on the other side stopped talking and looked at Zihuan. Whether Qingguan was telling the truth or not, perhaps only ancient god Zihuan could tell. Zihuan didn't feel anything wrong with his body, so using his divine power was normal. What was wrong? Time to think is over. Next, Shisheng took out his iron sword and drew a beautiful arc in the air. A strange smile bloomed on his delicate face as his red lips parted slightly. Time to kill begins. Cold bean-sized raindrops suddenly fell from the sky, turning into a downpour in the blink of an eye. The curtain of rain blurred Shisheng's figure, and everyone could only see an afterimage flash by. Ah! A shrill scream rang out. Blood sprinkled down from the sky, mixing with the rain and washing down to the ground. A white figure fell from the sky and smashed into the ground with a thump. Blood flowed out like a small stream. Soon, a large area was dyed red by the rain. Charge! Dongjing's side, which had been watching the battle, charged toward the god race the moment that person hit the ground. The Yao beasts excitedly followed behind them, secretly picking up the heads. The god race had lost this battle because Zihuan hadn't taken action. Once the god race retreated, Shisheng stood under the huge plant leaf held up by the Yao beast Sanson, and looked up at Dongjing in the sky. Dongjing hesitated for a moment, then descended from the sky and stood in the rain. Rainwater flowed down from his mask, making his figure appear desolate. Why are you so against the god race? Would you be merciful to someone who wants to kill you? Shisheng answered with a question of his own. Since the god race was on the female lead's side, it was only a matter of time before they attacked her. Don't say things like they haven't done anything yet, and they're innocent. No one in this world was innocent. Everyone was just trying to survive. Dongjing was silent. After a while he said, "Have you found the person you're looking for?" Shisheng was melancholy. "No, I probably won't find her in this life." In this life? Dongjing's tone was a bit strange. She was born in Verdant Palace. As far as he knew, she hadn't experienced any love tribulations. How could this life be? You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Shisheng glanced at Dongjing and asked, "Do you have any strange feelings towards me?" Tied with the red string, there should at least be some feelings, right? Does not wanting to kill you count? Dongjing replied with a serious expression. Shisheng. So you want to kill anyone you see? Perhaps that was true for Dongjing. As long as it was a living person, he wanted to kill them. But when he saw this woman, he didn't have that kind of impulse. Shisheng pondered for a while, but he couldn't understand why that little bitch tied her red string to Dongjing. Both of them fell silent. Shisheng didn't have anything to say, and Dongjing didn't know what to say. Asterisk little fairy. Good morning, little fairies. Cherub. Horrified. Why are you suddenly speaking so nicely? There's something devilish about you. Little fairy. Smiling. Look at my sincere face. Cherub. I can't see. If there's anything you want to say, just say it. Don't be so scary. Little fairy. Drawing sword, vote. Cherub. Vote immediately. Chapter 261. Yuning was also an ancient god, and was in charge of all marriages. At that time, there were two ancient gods who liked Yuning. In order to gain Yuning's favor, the two ancient gods tried their best, but they were unable to gain her favor. One of them was Zihuan, while the other was Qingguan's father. In the end, Qingguan's father gave up and married Qingguan's mother, who had been chasing after him all this time. Zihuan never gave up, but Yuning still did not like him. Yuning liked an ordinary person who ascended from the mortal world. But that person already had a partner, and they ascended together. The two of them had a very good relationship. Yuning used her authority as Yulao to forcefully separate the two of them. The woman was then sent to the land of infinite desolation, which was eyeing the god realm covetously. At that time, the demonic beasts were the masters of the land of 10,000 desolation. The woman was sent to the land of 10,000 desolation. Not long after, she couldn't bear the humiliation and perished together with the demonic beast king. At this point, Dongjing stopped. Shisheng continued. So that person is you? Dongjing neither admitted nor denied it. He continued. After the man found out, he caused a huge ruckus in the god world. However, there were still a few ancient gods who had not fallen. Yuning was also protected by Zihuan. He had no way of taking revenge. He paused for a moment before continuing. Back then, your mother helped me. Although she didn't tell my pursuers where I was hiding. If she hadn't chosen to hide it, I wouldn't have been able to leave the god realm. Shisheng blinked and said after a while. So that's why you followed me? Indeed, every plane had a surprise plot. I'm a little confused. System. Can you not randomly add such a complicated plot? I just want to quietly act cool, and be a beautiful girl who is worshipped by others. Dongjing first nodded before shaking his head. That's half the reason. Well, that's not important. So your red string was kept by Yu Ning, and then it ended up in Yu Yao's hands. Is that right? Dong Jing nodded. Back then, he had left the god world in a hurry, so he had long forgotten about the red thread. Since she had found Dong Jing's red thread, she might have also found something left behind by Yu Ning and learned something from it. That little bitch Yu Yao actually dared to tie the red string of fate to the person her mother liked. Wasn't she afraid that her mother would jump up and beat this unfilial daughter to death? Wait, then who was Yu Yao's father? The ending of the plot was also not explained clearly, so it was suspicious that it had a bad ending. It wasn't me. Dong Jing quickly denied as if he knew what Shisheng was thinking. Shisheng rolled his eyes. I didn't say it was you. Why are you in such a hurry to deny it? Could it be Zidan's? That's impossible, right? Zidan shouldn't be unable to recognize his own daughter. Whose was that? The Jade Emperor? He was quite worried about Yu Yao, but it didn't seem like a father who was worried about his daughter. It was more like he was afraid of something. This female lead's cheats are truly inexhaustible. I need to remind you that your father was quite close to Yu Ning back then. This is probably why your mother chose to hide it from me. Are you saying that Yu Yao might be my sister? Don't be so melodramatic. I can't take it, okay? Dong Jing did not say anything. Shisheng scratched the table with his fingernails. Indeed, there was no such thing as the most melodramatic, only more melodramatic. Boss, that woman insists on seeing you. She injured a few of our friends. Air and CC supported San, who had been beaten up, and ran over to complain. Shisheng's hand paused. He picked up the iron sword beside him and walked out. I want to see what she's up to. Outside the city gates, Yu Yao was dressed in red. Her face was still the same, but the feeling she gave off was completely different. In the past, Yu Yao gave people the impression that she was a little delicate and cute. But now she gave people the impression that she was flirtatious. Her every move was seductive. That little bitch actually wants to seduce us. Her face is so ugly that I can't eat anything when I look at it. Boss, am I right? Air expressed his loyalty, like a lackey. Boss is the prettiest. Boss is the prettiest. That's right. Boss is dozens of times prettier than that little bitch. She's not even fit to carry Boss's shoes. The demons took turns praising Yu Yao. In the end they said in unison, Boss, avenge us. Shisheng. So that last sentence was the main point, right? Yu Yao wasn't far away, so she naturally heard what the demons were saying. Her face immediately darkened. Qingguan, I thought you wouldn't dare to come out. Yu Yao raised her voice. Shisheng stepped on the city walls and leaped into the air to meet Yu Yao's gaze. Why are you looking for me? Do you want to acknowledge me as your family? Yu Yao frowned. You know, Shisheng, I was just saying it casually. It can't be true, right? Damn, the original owner's father was actually such an ancient god. Do you know that you're an illegitimate daughter? Qingguan. Yu Yao shrieked, as if someone had stepped on her sore spot. You're the illegitimate daughter. So it's true. Shisheng muttered. In his mind, he cursed the system and the author of this novel. The author must have left the story unfinished. This plot isn't even finished. Why are you looking for me? Are you trying to show off that you're an illegitimate daughter with a father now? Shisheng raised his head and spoke in a mocking tone. Unfortunately, he's been dead for so many years. He can't see you and he can't provide you with any protection. Yu Yao suddenly calmed down and spoke in a somewhat boastful tone. Qingguan, you must not know that he left Verdant Spirit Sword to me, right? What's that? Verdant Spirit Sword? Is it that awesome? Yu Yao choked. Why is her reaction so different from what I expected? You don't even know about Verdant Spirit Sword? It's an ancient divine artifact. Are you even worthy of being his daughter? I must be pretending not to care. After learning that my father has a daughter, and even left a divine artifact to her, how could I possibly be as calm as I am now? Yu Yao comforted herself inwardly. Oh, an ancient divine artifact? Take it out and let me have a look. Shisheng stared at Yu Yao with a faint smile. Yu Yao desperately wanted to show off, so she immediately summoned Verdant Spirit Sword. It was a dark green sword with a delicate appearance, suitable for a woman to use. Yu Yao proudly raised her chin. Qingguan, Even if you were born in Verdant Palace, you still didn't get Verdant Spirit Sword. The person he loved the most was my mother, so he left Verdant Spirit Sword to me. She was born in Verdant Palace, so she was destined to be a ruler from the moment she was born. What right did she have to enjoy all this? She was also his daughter, so what right did she have to live so cautiously? Shisheng held the iron sword horizontally in front of him. Do you know what kind of sword this is? Yu Yao was stunned, her heart filled with suspicion. She didn't know what Shisheng was doing. She had seen the might of the iron sword before. Everyone said it was a divine artifact, but no one knew what kind of divine artifact it was. What kind of sword is it? Shisheng's lips curled. The ancient demonic sword, the god-slaying sword. Asterisk iron sword. Master, do you still remember my real name? Shisheng. I remember. Iron sword. What's your real name? Shisheng. Amazing weapon for showing off iron sword. Don't stop me. I want to devour my master. Chapter 262. God-slaying sword? Ancient demon sword? Yu Yao was still in a daze after hearing these two answers. Why haven't I heard of an ancient demon sword before? However, Shisheng didn't give Yu Yao a chance to react. He charged at Yu Yao, his iron sword stirring up waves of turbulence in the air. It was as if a world-destroying power had gathered around her. Shisheng swung his iron sword at Yu Yao. Yu Yao was shocked and instinctively used Verdant Spirit to block. Dazzling sparks flew as the two swords collided. Shisheng quickly swung his sword. As he did so, he scolded. Trying to show off in front of I? Why don't you take a look at who's standing in front of you? When I was showing off, you were still playing in the mud. So what if you have Verdant Spirit? So what if you have an ancient divine weapon? Verdant Spirit might be very powerful, but it didn't break even after Shisheng had swung it so many times. But in Yu Yao's hands, it probably couldn't even display a tenth of its power. Shisheng aimed for Yu Yao's wrist and flicked his sword. Yu Yao felt a sharp pain in her wrist. Her wrist suddenly lost strength, and Verdant Spirit fell from the sky. Without his sword, Shisheng kicked Yu Yao down from the sky. You could have taken the path to heaven, but you chose to come to hell instead. Do you think I's dead? Kill her. Shisheng kicked Verdant Spirit, which had fallen to the side, to one of the monsters running out of the city. All right, boss. Do you want me to slice her or cut her into pieces? Who had snatched the sword, was all smiles. Yu Yao was forced to kneel on the ground by the other monsters. Her wrist was bleeding profusely. Qingguan, you can't do this to me. Yu Yao screamed in horror. Shisheng turned a deaf ear to her cries. Do it. She didn't want to see her jumping around for even a second. Yes, boss. Qingguan, you'll regret this. Don't forget about the red string tied to you and Dongjing. Seeing the man closing in on her, Green Spirit had no choice but to reveal her final trump card. Do it. The worst result would be her death. Anyway, if she died, the game would restart. What was there to be afraid of? Qingguan, you bitch. She dared to scold our boss. Cut off her tongue. She even dared to glare at our boss. Dig out her eyes too. Shisheng didn't bother to watch how they killed Yu Yao. He turned around and returned to the city. Dongjing stood at the city gates, his gaze fixed on the empty space outside. You really did kill her, Dongjing said. She didn't hesitate at all and killed without hesitation. This girl did not look like a descendant of the god race at all. There was an evil aura around her. However, the evil aura on her body was different from the evil aura he had seen before. Arrogant, and confrontational, but not murderous. She had malice towards people, but she had no intention of killing them. She would guess that you might not have good intentions, but she wouldn't attack you because of that. She would only attack you mercilessly after she was sure that your malice was directed at her. She would kill you in one blow, leaving no survivors. You're going to die anyway. The sooner you die, the sooner you can be reincarnated. Shisheng was not in a good mood at the moment, so his tone was not very pleasant. Take care. I won't see you out. Dongjing. Dongjing thought for a moment, then chased after her. Is your sword really called the God-slaying sword? He knew about the Green Spirit sword, and he had seen its power before. However, It was completely at a disadvantage against her sword. Even if the person using it was wrong, it shouldn't have been suppressed to such an extent. What, do you want it? Shisheng tilted his head, his eyes as calm as still water. They made one's scalp go numb. This malice again. He was just asking casually and didn't mean anything else. I have it. Dong Jing's meaning was clear. He had a suitable weapon and didn't need it. Then why did you ask? Shisheng put the iron sword back into his space. It doesn't matter what it's called, as long as it's useful. Dong Jing. These words made a lot of sense. He couldn't refute them. Before news of Yu Yao's death reached the god realm, ancient god Zisu died. Yu Yao was now the leader of the Yin Yang Gu. If she died, Zisu would die as well. The god race fell into chaos and lost all hope. Song Lan recovered his memories after Yu Yao's death. After sorting out the cause and effect, it was impossible to say that he didn't hate Yu Yao. She had actually tampered with his body, then got together with Zisu. But she was already dead, so he could only let it go. Song Lan then disappeared. Without a high god like Song Lan, the god race declined even faster. Dong Jing's achievement of unifying the three realms was achieved. Shisheng kept thinking about the red string of fate between her and Dong Jing. Dong Jing clearly treated her as an elder, and didn't show any signs of liking her. What exactly was that red string used for? Until Dong Jing accidentally encountered the reincarnation of the woman he loved. Every time Dong Jing was moved by that woman, Shisheng would experience a bone-eroding pain. Fuck his grandpa. That little bitch Yu Yao was actually waiting for her here. Shisheng dragged the iron sword and aggressively rushed to Dong Jing's palace. She endured the pain in her body and thought about the girl inside. She resisted the urge to charge in and instead gathered her energy in her dantian and roared. Dong Jing. Dong Jing was jolted away from the girl, his mind filled with suspicion. What was she doing here? Give me a moment. Dong Jing put the mask back on his face and got up to leave. Outside the door, Shisheng supported himself with the iron sword, his face pale. What's wrong? Dong Jing was surprised. Ever since he met her, he had never seen her in such a sorry state. Shisheng gasped for breath, his hands trembling. He wanted to strangle Dong Jing. Do you know how much pain I have to go through to pick up girls? Fuck your grandpa. Hurry up and think of a way to undo that red string of fate. What? Dong Jing didn't understand. Shisheng gritted his teeth. We still have a red string of fate. Did you forget? Dong Jing. He didn't care before because he didn't think there would be anyone else he liked. But he didn't expect to meet her again. Dong Jing hurriedly reached out to help Shisheng into the room. Qianqian, come and help me. Dong Jing called out to the girl inside the room. The girl called Qianqian came out from the side room. When she saw Shisheng, she was stunned for a moment before her eyes lit up. It's you. You know each other? Dong Jing was puzzled. Why didn't he remember them meeting before? Shisheng crawled on the table and opened his eyes to look at the girl. It's you. You two stand further away. Do you want me to die from the pain? Get out, get out. In the end, Shisheng pointed at Dong Jing angrily. Dong Jing was speechless. This was his room, okay? Qianqian, take care of her. I'll be back soon. Okay. The girl nodded obediently. Then, she looked at Shisheng excitedly. Big sister, you still remember me. That's great. She thought she would never see her again. And you're still alive. Shisheng weakly grabbed the teacup on the table. He looked very cute. Qianqian immediately poured some water for Shisheng. It's all thanks to Big Sister. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lived until now. Asterisk add more tips. Chapter 263. Qianqian was the girl Shisheng had met in the Great Desolation Realm. Shisheng finally realized. I thought you couldn't speak? Qianqian stuck out her tongue. I met a strange person in the Great Desolation Realm. I gave him food as a reward and he healed me. Shisheng let out a long sigh of relief. His heart finally felt better. You're quite lucky to have such a fortuitous encounter in a place like the Great Desolation Realm. Her luck was off the charts. Qianqian lowered her head shyly and asked in a small voice, Sister, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. She was really grateful to her sister. If not for her, she would have died in the Great Desolation realm. Shisheng waved his hand. I just want to be a third wheel. Let me sleep for a while. She and Dongjing lived on opposite sides of the Great Desolation realm. In order to rush here, she had not had a good rest for a long time. Okay, I'll help you inside. Qianqian said obediently. When Shisheng lay down on the bed, she added, You're not allowed to see Dongjing. Otherwise, I'll die. Ah. Qianqian finally realized that something was wrong with her sister. However, when she looked over, the person on the bed had already fallen asleep. She was completely defenseless. Qianqian reached out and covered her with a blanket. The person on the bed frowned and only relaxed after Qianqian's hand left. Qianqian carefully retreated. She stood at the door and looked around. Dongjing came in with some food. Where's she? She's asleep. Qianqian was not as obedient in front of Dongjing. Instead, she was a little cold. Then you should eat some. Dongjing, are you trying to kill me? A faint voice came from the side room. I helped you after all. You don't have to treat me like this. Why didn't I kill you back then? Dongjing pressed Qianqian down on a chair before turning to go to the side room. He looked at Shisheng, who was propping himself up and clutching his chest with a fierce expression. He said helplessly, There are some things that you can't control. I beg you, please control yourself. There's a life here. Shisheng said angrily. Big sister, what's wrong? Qianqian followed him in. Her eyes lit up when she saw Shisheng, and her voice was very soft. Are you hurt, Dongjing? Why did he feel like his wife was about to run away with someone else? No, I'll be fine as long as he doesn't fall for you. Shisheng lay down weakly. Ah, what do you mean? Sister likes Dongjing? If big sister likes it, I can also give Dongjing to big sister. I don't like this homicidal maniac. Shisheng immediately shouted. Forget it, you explain it to her yourself. Anyway, girl, remember that I don't like him. I don't like him. He's too old. Dongjing. They all had long lifespans. She was speaking as if she wasn't old at all. Dongjing gave a simple explanation to Qianqian, and Qianqian immediately drove Dongjing out. Shisheng gave Qianqian a thumbs up. Well done. Qianqian smiled shyly. Can't you undo the red thread? I don't know. Shisheng shook his head. If you can't undo it, you can't be with Dongjing for the rest of your life. My life belongs to big sister. Qianqian is willing to do anything to ease big sister's pain. Qianqian's face was serious. Shisheng. Motherf **Ker, he was too embarrassed to say anything else. Not only was Dongjing's bedroom occupied, but his wife was also occupied. He was very depressed. But the next day, demonic beasts came looking for his boss again. Dongjing had never felt so depressed before. In order to send the god of plagues away as soon as possible and rescue his wife, he had no choice but to find a solution. Every time he wanted to see his wife, he would be chased by a group of demonic beasts. Seriously, his heart was tired. That was his wife. Wife, can you not look at a girl with such a shy face? Big sister, eat something. Qianqian placed a bowl of soup in front of Shisheng. Shisheng supported his temples with his hand, his posture cool. He raised his eyebrows. You give me this every day. It's making me fat. How is big sister fat? This is for your beauty. You'll look prettier if you drink more. Shisheng sighed, a helpless expression on her face. Where's Dongjing? Can he do it? He still can't find a solution. Qianqian shook her head. Shisheng finished the soup and went out to look for Dongjing. He especially told Qianqian not to follow him. Dongjing looked at this girl and knew that she was definitely going to be in trouble. For his own safety, he could only let others suffer. He couldn't find Dongjing, and Shisheng only found a few demonic beasts playing happily. For the next few days, Shisheng didn't see Dongjing. She was in good health, which meant that Qianqian didn't see Dongjing either. So did Dongjing go missing? Qianqian wasn't worried at all. She followed behind Shisheng all day. She was determined to raise Shisheng into a big fatty. On the fourth night, Dongjing came back in a sorry state. For his wife, he was going all out. However, he didn't get anything. Sheng felt that the whole world was filled with deep malice. This was forcing her to die. She hadn't had enough fun yet. Why was she going to die? Sheng was unhappy. Thus, the group of Protoss who were secretly preparing for revenge suffered. Sheng caught almost all the deities he could and interrogated them. In the end, these deities didn't know what method he used. In the end, Sheng chose to die. This world was so unrestrained. Her character must be so bad that it was as bad as the sky. It was better to accumulate some virtue. Sheng chose a sunny day and left without saying goodbye. He only left some things for Qianqian. When she returned to the system space, Sheng refused to answer how she died. This was a stain on her life. Shame. She shouldn't have let Yu Yao die so easily. Why did it feel that the host was actually very tolerant of some girls? Look at those demonic beasts. They followed her for so long, but they didn't get any benefits. However, how long had Qianqian been with her? In the end, she left her so many things when she left. The system recorded this important data, and then refreshed Sheng's information. Name, Sheng character points. 139000 health points, 25 general points, 18,000 mission level. B mission score, 80 side mission. Incomplete side mission reward. 0 general points item list. Queen's crown, Ghost King's heart very good. I deducted more than 10,000 points of character again. Friendly reminder. The host still has 61,000 general points to waste. Sheng. I still have a lot. Don't worry. I still have enough to waste for a while. Host, your thoughts are very dangerous. Do you want to enter the next plane? Initializing teleportation. Add more thank you to the cherub who tipped me. The 9th plane came to an end. Because there was no male lead, and the plane was destroyed by Sheng, the plot wasn't as long as before. Yes, you didn't see wrong. There was no male lead in this plane. Although the male lead would be in most planes, there were times when he wasn't. Those who guessed Feng Ci before, come and have sex with him. Chapter 264. Darkness, Cold, and Hunger. These were all the feelings Sheng felt after regaining consciousness. She found herself in a very narrow space, the kind where she couldn't even see her own fingers. The space wasn't even big enough for her to turn around. Sheng was dumbfounded. What the hell is this place? She reached out to feel her surroundings. There seemed to be a soft silk cushion under her, and the sides and the top of her head felt a bit like wood. Sheng. Why does this feel so much like a coffin? I haven't even started the mission, and they've already buried I? Which idiot is so wicked? I'm not dead yet. Sheng kicked the floor, but it didn't even make a sound. It was obvious how sturdy this thing was. She took out a luminous pearl from her inventory, and her surroundings immediately became clear. This isn't a fucking coffin. I'm going to livestream myself swallowing a luminous pearl. Sheng endured it, but still decided to accept the plot first. No idiot would dare to disturb her while she was in a coffin. This is an article about vampires on campus. Female lead, AI Wei, 18 years old, first-year student at Rose Academy. Rose Academy was a famous school for nobility, and its students were either rich or respectable. And not everyone was human. There were also vampires. Because the female lead was late for self-study, she was caught by Zuolai, who was injured and in urgent need of blood. Like all vampire novels, the female lead's blood was special. Zuolai became addicted to it the moment he breathed it in, and from then on he stuck to her side. However, the female lead secretly loved Xikong-sa, and because of him, she worked hard to get into Rose Academy. At first, the male lead only followed her because of her blood. Knowing that she liked Xikong-sa, the male lead kindly warned her that Xikong-sa wasn't as good as he seemed. Naturally, the female lead didn't believe him. She felt that the male lead was slandering Xikong-sa and disliked him. In the end, she used blood as a condition for the male lead to help her pursue Xikong-sa. The male lead did indeed let Xikong-sa and the female lead be together, but at this time, the male lead discovered that he seemed to have fallen in love with the female lead. Thus, the plot developed into a love triangle. At the end of the story, the female lead saw Xikong-sa's true colors, and the male lead stayed by her side. In the end, The female lead fell into the male lead's arms. It was a perfect ending. As for the original Minai, as a pure-blooded vampire, she had a proud and aloof personality and rarely interacted with humans. She didn't even like her own kind. However, she was beautiful and was considered a cold goddess in the academy, so she was quite popular. Such a high and mighty vampire originally had nothing to do with the female lead. However, the person Minai liked was Sikong-sa. After the female lead and Sikong-sa got together, Minai, the female supporting character, came online and caused trouble for the female lead in all sorts of ways. After the female lead was attacked by a vampire again, she suddenly pointed out that it was the original owner who ordered the vampire to do it. Although the original owner didn't like the female lead, she only used some small tricks to create trouble for the female lead. It wasn't fatal. She was suddenly accused, and because she always targeted the female lead, almost no one believed her. In order to coexist peacefully, vampires and human vampire hunters formed a vampire hunter alliance. There was a contract that was specifically used to restrict vampires, as well as those humans who wanted to hunt vampires who did not trigger the contract. The original owner's actions had violated the terms of the contract, and the BHA wanted to send the original owner to the BHA headquarters for trial. The host was naturally unwilling. She had never done it before. Thus, the original owner fled. However, she didn't manage to escape and was still caught by the BHA headquarters. There, the original owner saw countless bloody scenes, and her own kind were dissected for research. Those humans wanted immortality, but they didn't want to become vampires, so they researched the secret of immortality. As a purebred vampire, the original owner had a lot of research value. Those people kept conducting experiments on her body. The original owner was tortured to death. The original owner only had one wish, and that was revenge. Regardless of whether it was the BHA or the female lead, she wanted revenge. If the female lead hadn't suddenly pointed her out, she wouldn't have been targeted by the BHA, and she wouldn't have ended up like that. It's just face slapping. I'm BBB good at it. I'll make them cry for their parents in minutes. Now F*King let I out. How do you open this coffin? I can't even push it open. Those sleeping in coffins are zombies. Why are vampires sleeping in coffins? Can't you have some self-awareness as a noble vampire? Shisheng fumbled around for a long time, but still couldn't open the coffin. In the end, he got angry and took out his iron sword to hack at it. The lid of the coffin was split in half and fell to the ground with a dull thud. It was also dark outside. The coffin was facing the window, and moonlight spilled in through the window. The whole room seemed to be covered with a layer of gauze. Shisheng found the light switch according to his memory, and the room immediately lit up. The room leaned toward the European retro style. The colors were dark, and the furnishings were simple. It didn't seem like a girl's, no, a female vampire's boudoir. Shisheng turned to look at the coffin he had just been lying in. This thing looked more advanced than anything else in the room. Shisheng then shifted his gaze to a poster on the top of the coffin. It wasn't a poster, but a lifelike painting. It was a painting of roses. The blood-red roses seemed to be spreading all over the place. In the midst of the roses, one could vaguely see the back of a child. The only thing that was clear was the red string on the child's wrist. There was a crescent-shaped pendant hanging from the red string. The original owner treasured this painting very much, but why couldn't Shisheng find an answer from his memory? The original owner lived here alone, so there was no one else in the room. Shisheng thought of a very bad thing. Vampires drank blood. She didn't like drinking that stuff. At the thought of blood, Shisheng suddenly felt very hungry. It was over. She was going to starve to death in this world. Later, she could write a book called 101 Ways I Ended Up Dead Through Those Years. She could definitely make it big. Thinking of the novel, Shisheng felt a little depressed. He hadn't opened a pit in a long time. This time, he must open a few more pits to satisfy his craving. So hungry, Shisheng rubbed his belly, got up and walked out of the room. There were only a few bottles of bright red solvent in the fridge. It was sealed, but he could smell the scent of blood. It was very tempting. Shisheng swallowed his saliva, reached for the bottles of solvent, and slammed the fridge shut. Sheng threw the blood solvent into the trash can and turned back to the room. What else could vampires eat besides drinking blood? Sheng sadly found out. Human food was useless to vampires. If they ate too much, they might even weaken themselves. So besides drinking blood, they could only drink blood. If vampires wanted to go to the human world, they had to be approved by the BHA and receive the blood they needed from the BHA. For example, the kind she threw away just now was blood from official channels. But according to the original owner's final experience, the blood provided by the BHA was most likely tampered with. Not to mention that she didn't drink blood. Even if she did, she definitely wouldn't drink something of unknown origin. Sheng thought for a moment, then sat cross-legged on the sofa next to her. Just now, she felt that there was spirit energy in this world. Although it wasn't much, it shouldn't be a problem for her to absorb some spirit energy to suppress her hunger? Popular science theater Little Fairy. Come. Do you know Sheng's name? Cherub. Little Fairy, beg me and I'll tell you. Cherub. I think you don't want the vote. Little Fairy, you won't vote without a word. You'll lose me like this. Cherub, sweet smile. Little Fairy, I was wrong. Minai, second voice, it's a surname. Chapter 265. Pure-blooded vampires didn't fear sunlight, but they still instinctively loathed it. Sheng walked on the path to the academy, avoiding the sunlight as much as possible. Large patches of blood-red roses bloomed on her long black dress, swaying as she walked. They were so lifelike that it was very visually impactful. But Minai dressed like this almost every day, so the people in the academy were used to it. They only looked at her with envy or admiration. Sheng looked down at her phone. Today was the 17th of August. The female lead would be attacked today, and then she would be accused. Sheng put her phone away and looked around. Looking at the lively students, she could almost hear the sound of their blood flowing through their bodies. It constantly tempted her. This experience was unprecedentedly satisfying. Sheng bit her lip and sped up. Only when she was far away from the crowd did she breathe a sigh of relief. Senior Minai. Sheng paused in the middle of climbing the stairs and turned to look at the person who had called her. She was wearing a white shirt, a denim skirt, and a pair of white sneakers. She looked very refreshing. The girl ran in, her face red. She bowed apologetically and said respectfully, Senior Minai, I'm sorry. I was delayed by the student council. This is what you wanted me to look into. She took out a file from her backpack and handed it to Sheng. This girl was in Minai's memories. Liang Ge, the vice president of the student council. She had once seen Minai drink blood, but she had always yearned to become a vampire. So she was very protective of Minai. Minai seemed to have asked her to look into the female lead, Ai Wei. Senior Minai, her information is in here. Liang Ji's eyes sparkled, like a pet waiting for praise. Sheng took it silently without making a sound. Minai didn't talk much either, but Liang Ge was already used to it. She quietly watched as Sheng flipped through the file. The information recorded in the file was filled out by the female lead when she first entered the academy. It was basically useless. Class is about to start. You should go back first, Sheng said to Liang Ge as she put the file away. Okay. If senior needs anything, just let me know. I'll be at your service at any time. After Liang Ge left, Sheng destroyed the documents and headed to the classroom. Because it was an aristocratic school, there were only 20 or so people in a class. The original owner wasn't very familiar with them, and with her cold goddess title, no one disturbed her. The class ended peacefully in the afternoon. When everyone had left, Sheng stretched her stiff body and stood up. Can you imagine the feeling of being surrounded by all kinds of delicious food when you're hungry? It was simply a tragedy. So hungry. Sheng dragged his half-crippled body out of the classroom. However, before he could take 2 steps, someone bumped into him and made him dizzy. *CK your mother. Do you know how to walk? Are your eyes for decoration? I was such a big person, yet you still bumped into me. I'm sorry. Senior Minai, are you alright? The one who bumped into her was a young boy who looked unfamiliar. Sheng grabbed the little boy's arm and swallowed his saliva. He stared at the little boy with a terrifying look in his eyes. So hungry. I'm sorry, Senior Minai. The little boy was frightened and trembled as he apologized. Shisheng let go of him and growled, Scram. The little boy was probably frightened as he scrambled up the stairs. Senior Minai's gaze was so scary. Shisheng suppressed the hunger in his body and headed to a less crowded area. Whenever she saw these people, she felt like she would pounce on them at any moment. This impulse was different from other things. This was the instinct of being a vampire, and it was hard to control. It actually didn't matter if purebred vampires didn't drink blood. However, the original owner had always been used to drinking blood. Right now, it was like a drug addiction was acting up. The hunger followed her like a shadow, tormenting her to the point of insanity. Thinking about how he still had to watch the female lead tonight, Shisheng felt a bit tired. Why were vampires such a delicate breed that they couldn't eat anything? SSS, be gentler, don't bite so hard. A girl's grumbling voice came from under the rack of roses next to Shisheng. Shisheng paused in his steps, the tip of his nose twitching. The smell of blood. And it was an especially delicious smell of blood. Don't ask him why he knew it was especially delicious. In any case, that was the only word that popped up in his mind. Want to drink. Want to drink. Shisheng's eyes were filled with these two words. Who's there? A figure suddenly darted out from under the rack of roses, bringing with him the sweet smell of blood. The figure rushed straight for Shisheng, reaching out to strangle him. Shisheng narrowed his eyes. He raised his hand to block the hand, then kicked the person's lower abdomen. His speed was too fast, and the person was caught off guard, so he took the kick head-on. SSS. Zwalai sucked in a cold breath, clutching his lower body. His body was half-bent, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Only someone who had been kicked in the balls would understand the indescribable pain. Zwalai, are you okay? The girl in sportswear helped Zwalai up, then glared at Shisheng. Senior Minai, if you have any problems, come at me. Zwalai didn't offend you. Shisheng's gaze fell on Ai Wei's neck. There was a bite mark there, and bright red liquid slowly seeped out as Ai Wei moved. She felt a bit dizzy. She wanted to pounce on him. She was about to lose control. Minai, don't you dare. Zwalai pulled Ai Wei behind him, looking like he was protecting his food. Shisheng licked his chapped lips, a hint of malice appearing in his calm eyes. Zwalai, you've broken the contract. Vampires couldn't casually drink human blood, even if they didn't take the human's life. Zwalai treated the female lead like a mobile blood bank. Wasn't that breaking the contract? Mind your own business. Zwalai's lower body was still aching, but in front of Minai, he had no choice but to straighten up. This woman was also a purebred vampire, so she wasn't easy to deal with. Zwalai. Ai Wei called out in confusion. When did we get so close? Ai Wei still didn't know that Minai was a vampire. Zwalai protected Ai Wei behind him, his gaze sharp as he stared at Shisheng. Shisheng brushed away the hair that had fallen in front of his chest and smiled contentedly. I naturally won't meddle in other people's business, but... Ai Wei, aren't you Sikong Sa's girlfriend? What are you doing with Zwalai at this time? Could it be that the two of you have some unspeakable secret? Ai Wei grew nervous, but she pretended to be calm and said, What does Zwalai and I do have to do with you? I can't let this woman know that Zwalai is a vampire. This was the only thought in Ai Wei's mind. Then you two have some unspeakable secret? No, Ai Wei retorted. I just met Zwalai, that's all. Senior Minai, please don't make malicious guesses about others. Asterisk, vampires and whatnot, I haven't seen it in years. That's why I don't know the details, so I just wrote a rough outline. If there are any mistakes, please correct me. Sob sob sob, look at how cute and obedient I am. Won't you guys vote for me? Chapter 266. Malicious speculation? Shisheng raised his brows. I saw it with my own eyes. And you're still making malicious speculation? What were you two doing in there just now? Ai Wei wanted to explain, but Zwalai stopped her. Minai, do you want to fight? This woman clearly knows, but she's still acting like she doesn't. What's she planning? I don't have the strength. Why don't you share some of your food with me? We'll fight after I'm full. Shisheng tilted his head, a malicious smile on his face. That smile made Ai Wei feel very uncomfortable. Zhuo Lai frowned and his voice turned sharp. Me Nai, you want to be my enemy? You even dare to covet my people? How bold! Shisheng pursed his lips and snorted. Since when have we not been enemies? The relationship between the original owner and Zhuo Lai wasn't that bad, but it wasn't good either. So Shisheng's words weren't wrong. Shisheng licked his lips. Good things should be shared with everyone. It's not very nice of you to eat them all alone. Ai Wei looked at Shisheng in surprise. Just as she was about to speak, Zhuo Lai tightened his grip on her hand. Don't touch my people, or you'll have to bear the consequences. Zhuo Lai grabbed Ai Wei and walked out of Rose Garden. Shisheng didn't chase after them. Instead, he stared thoughtfully at Zhuo Lai's back. Zhuo Lai pulled Ai Wei far away from Rose Garden before stopping. Next time you see that woman, avoid her, understand? In the past, he could still somewhat understand that woman, but now he couldn't understand her actions at all. Ai Wei hesitated. She's a vampire too? Zhuo Lai glanced at her and nodded. Remember my words. Don't go against her. Ai Wei was astonished. Just how many vampires are there in this school? Under the sunlight, her fair and slender neck emitted a lustrous halo. Zhuo Lai's eyes darkened. He suddenly pushed Ai Wei into a nearby bush and bit her neck. Ah. Zhuo Lai, can't you be gentler? Ai Wei sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. The only response she got was the sound of swallowing. Ai Wei came from a relatively well-to-do family, but she had a good upbringing. She was taught to be self-reliant, so whenever she had time, she would work part-time outside of school. The place where she worked part-time was a bar. Most of the people who came here were students. It was very noisy. Xiao Wei, my stomach hurts a little. Help me deliver the wine ordered by the customer over there. Ai Wei's colleague from the same class handed a tray to Ai Wei and looked at her pleadingly. Okay, are you okay? Do you want to apply for leave from the manager? Ai Wei agreed readily, not forgetting to express her concern for her colleague. The colleague waved his hand. It's fine. I'll just go to the toilet. Sorry to trouble you. Then go quickly. Her colleague jogged towards the staff passageway. Ai Wei sighed and delivered the wine to the table her colleague had pointed out. He looked a little like a delinquent. Ai Wei lowered her head and placed the wine down. Here's your wine. Please enjoy. The yellow-haired youth closest to Ai Wei casually glanced at her. The light just so happened to reach her, so Ai Wei's face was clearly displayed in his eyes. His eyes lit up and he grabbed Ai Wei's hand, which she couldn't retract in time. He teased. Yo, this girl's not bad looking. Ai Wei was startled and struggled violently. What are you doing? The yellow-haired youth was very strong. Not only did Ai Wei fail to break free, she was even pulled into his embrace. With a lewd smile, he caressed her face. What are you pretending for? Let this bro touch you. There's plenty of money for you to earn. The other youths laughed maliciously, their words becoming lewd as well. Ai Wei was both embarrassed and angry. Let go of me, you stinking pervert. This girl's temper is really spicy. I like it. Come, let this bro have a taste. The yellow-haired youth moved closer to Ai Wei's face as he spoke. Ai Wei watched as the pimple-covered face drew closer to her, and felt a wave of disgust. She stepped on the yellow-haired youth's foot. Taking advantage of the yellow-haired youth's pain, she pushed him away and ran towards the bar counter. However, she hadn't even taken 2 steps when someone grabbed her hair from behind. Ah. Stinking B***TCH. I gave you face but you don't want it. You still dare to hit me. The commotion attracted the attention of others, and the manager was quickly called over. The yellow-haired youth was probably a regular customer, and was very familiar with the manager. The manager was even a little apprehensive of the yellow-haired youth, so he bowed and apologized profusely. In the end, not only was Ai Wei forced to drink as an apology, she was also fired. Shisheng sat in a corner, the darkness concealing his figure. His gaze was lowered, so he didn't look at the noisy scene. Hidden mission. Rose wedding. The system's voice rang out without warning. Shisheng was stunned. After a moment, he raised his head. Hidden mission? There wasn't a hidden mission in the previous world. Mission objective Xiyin. Complete a blood contract with Xiyin. Shisheng. I've never heard of this person. Wasn't the hidden mission an antagonist? Was it changed to a passerby? F***CK system, you're getting more and more playful. In order to increase the mission's difficulty, the hidden mission storyline has been deleted. The system's friendly reminder. Deleted. F***CK. Greetings to your producer's entire family. So now she's in a no storyline mode, right? And what the hell is a blood contract? The highest level of partnership among vampires. Together in life and death. Shisheng. Friendly reminder. Mission objective is 5 meters away from host. 4 meters. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1 meter. Shisheng glanced sideways at the corridor beside her. Amidst the flickering lights, a thin youth walked past her. Under the colorful lights, Shisheng could see his perfect profile. The corners of his lips were slightly upturned. She could even see his long eyelashes and the golden glow in his eyes. He's a vampire. Shisheng came to this conclusion almost immediately. Shisheng glanced in the female lead's direction. Then at the youth who was about to step out of the bar. The female lead wouldn't run away. But if this guy ran away, she'd have to spend a lot of time looking for him. Hidden mission. Maybe it's Feng Xiai again. Shisheng decisively got up and chased after Xiyin. At some point, it had started drizzling outside. Xiyin walked under the dim streetlights. The drizzle continued, and the neon lights in the distance shone brightly. But his back seemed somewhat bleak. He seemed to be walking aimlessly, but the terrain was getting more and more remote. When he could no longer hear the noise of the cars, the person in front of him suddenly stopped. He happened to be standing in the shadows of the alternating streetlights, hiding him in the darkness. He turned around, his gaze nonchalantly landing on the figure behind him. Shisheng stood under the dim streetlights. She didn't seem to have any intention of avoiding his gaze. Her expression was calm. Xiyin's lips curved upwards. His voice carried a hint of laziness and disdain. Purebred, why are you following me? I've taken a liking to you. Asterisk little fairy. Have you voted for today? Cherub, take a guess. Little fairy. Do you want me to guess? Cherub, not guessing. Goodbye. Little fairy. Kneeling down with a plop. Come back, I was wrong. Don't abandon me. I need your magic. Vote. Chapter 267. I've taken a liking to you. These 4 words were very clear in the quiet alley. You've taken a liking to me. Xiyin's tone rose with a hint of a smile. Then are you ready to sacrifice yourself for me? Shisheng. What the hell is sacrifice? Xiyin slowly walked out of the darkness and approached Shisheng. He sized her up. With this appearance, I allow you to sacrifice yourself for me. Shisheng. What's wrong with him? Xiyin suddenly reached out and grabbed Shisheng's shoulder. His eyes glowed with a golden light as he bared his fangs. Holy shit. Alarm bells went off in Shisheng's head. He pulled out his iron sword and swung it at Xiyin's face. Xiyin reacted quickly. Just as the iron sword was about to reach him, his figure flashed and he landed several meters away. This bastard actually drank the blood of his own kind. His own kind. Vampires drank the blood of their own kind under 2 circumstances. The first was to form a contract. The second was to steal power. It was impossible to form a contract with a vampire you didn't know. So he wanted to steal her power just now. Heh. Xiyin let out a low snort. He retracted his fangs and continued walking forward. Since you're not willing to sacrifice yourself for me, then don't follow me. Holy shit, this bastard was definitely sick, and very sick at that. What were her chances of winning if she took him away with her? From the looks of it, he seemed to be much higher level than her. Her chances of winning were at least 50%. Very well, then she'd take him back and raise him. If there's anything else, we'll have plenty of time in the future. Shisheng followed him secretly, preparing to make a move behind his back. However, Xiyin flashed a few times, and in the blink of an eye, Shisheng couldn't find him. Holy shit, a vampire who could teleport was so amazing. Shisheng looked around a few times but still couldn't find Xiyin. Just as she was about to give up, A figure suddenly charged out of the alley and ran straight into her. Shisheng moved her feet slightly and avoided the tragic collision. However, the figure still fell to the ground with a loud thud. Shisheng felt the pain for him. A few shadows dashed out of the alley behind him. The street lamp at the corner revealed their faces to Shisheng. His appearance was ugly, and his clothes were tattered, emitting a foul stench. These were the lowest-level vampires. They lived in the sewers all year round and had low intelligence. They only knew how to suck blood. It wouldn't be a problem to directly kill such a vampire. When they saw Shisheng, they stopped and stretched out their heads to sniff the air. Probably because they smelled her scent. The vampires retreated in fear, but they still looked at the figure on the ground unwillingly. Shisheng stared at the figure on the ground. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. It's you. Ai Wei was the first to speak, her face full of terror. What do you want? Would you believe me if I said I was just passing by? Shisheng smiled. You want to kill me? Ai Wei clearly wasn't listening to Shisheng. Shisheng. Which eye of yours saw that I wanted to kill you? I was just standing here. That's all. Persecutory paranoia is an illness that needs to be treated. A cool breeze blew in from somewhere, causing her black dress to flutter. A girl with a calm expression appeared, holding an iron sword. Despite the light drizzle, the girl's posture was elegant and dashing. I have nothing to do with this bunch of lowly people, Shisheng said coldly. Ai Wei watched as the girl turned around. The iron sword was dragged across the ground, emitting an ear-piercing sound. The vampires in the distance were startled by the sound and retreated. Ai Wei looked at the vampires who were waiting for Shisheng to leave before rushing over. She gritted her teeth, stood up, and chased after Shisheng. Right now, the only way to be safe was to follow her. Shisheng frowned at the female lead's actions. He jumped onto a lower roof and disappeared into the night with a few leaps. Ai Wei stared blankly at the empty space. She actually left him to die? Or was she the one who ordered him to do this? The shadows behind her gradually approached. Shisheng threw Ai Wei off and jumped down to the ground. He put away the iron sword and slowly walked back. The place where she lived was not far from the school. It was an independent villa area. Something seemed to be approaching her in the darkness. Shisheng glanced back but didn't see anything strange. She rubbed her chin. Have I been infected with persecutory paranoia by the female lead? She stood there for a while, then reached out to push open the villa's iron gate. Just as her hand touched the iron door, an arm wrapped around her shoulder from behind, and cold fingers strangled her neck. But before the owner of the hand could exert any force, his wrist was grabbed. The girl twisted her body to escape his grip. Just say I'm not suffering from persecutory paranoia. Which idiot would dare to ambush I? Shisheng focused his gaze, and his face immediately darkened. Lord Villain, what the hell are you doing? You didn't kill me just now, and now you're tailing me? You're a villain. Can you pay attention to your status? Flips table. I really want to hack you to death. Hold it in, hold it in. This might be your partner. If I hack you to death, you'll be single. I won't be able to abuse dogs anymore. Shisheng comforted himself inwardly, but his grip tightened, and he even kicked him. Ugh. Sheen groaned. His body swayed, and he fell to the ground. Then there was no more movement. Shisheng. That's not how you scam people. I didn't even use any strength in that kick, okay? You fell. What's the meaning of this? Shisheng took out his iron sword and poked him. The person on the ground didn't react at all. Shisheng looked at the fallen villain and glanced up at the sky. What kind of setting is this? He fainted with one kick? Was that crazy and cool villain just a figment of my imagination? But that's fine too. I can't be bothered to do anything. I'll bring him back and raise him. Raise him. Raise him. Raise him. Shisheng poked him a few more times to make sure Sheen wouldn't suddenly come back to life. Only then did he throw Sheen back onto the bed. The spiritual energy in her body wasn't enough for her to confirm whether this was feng shui or not. So Shisheng could only give up on this idea for now. Shisheng clawed at the bookshelf in the room bitterly. So hungry. Ah. She felt like she was about to go crazy from hunger. Why did the original host still have the instinct to drink blood? Shisheng swallowed his saliva. He endured the rumbling of hunger and took his clothes to the bathroom to take a shower. When he came out, he remembered that the person on the bed seemed to be wet. Shisheng flipped through the original host's wardrobe, but couldn't find any men's clothes. She could only take a dress. She jumped onto the bed and peeled off Xiyin. Only then did she see that there was a wound on Xiyin's back. There was no smell of blood. The wound was black, and the flesh was peeled out. It looked a bit sinister. It looked like it had been scratched out by something. She reached out to touch it. A burning sensation came from her fingertips, and Shisheng bounced back as if he had been electrocuted. She looked at her fingertips. Her fingertips seemed to have been infected, and they were slowly turning black. Was this the holy water used to deal with vampires? Her fingertips went numb, followed by a sharp pain. Acting cute and rolling around to beg for votes. Look at my sincere face. Do you really not need votes to dote on me? Chapter 268. Xiyin was awoken by the scorching sunlight. It took him a while to adjust to his surroundings. What was this place? Last night, he remembered meeting the woman who said she liked him. Xiyin sat up on the bed. The soft fabric on his body made him lower his head to look. It was a very simple design, but it was a woman's nightgown, the kind with spaghetti straps. Xiyin, who changed his clothes for him? Was it the woman from yesterday? He touched his waist. His underwear was still there. He looked around with a dark expression. This was clearly a woman's room. There was a coffin in the corner, its lid split in half and tossed on the floor. He was almost certain it was the female vampire from yesterday. It smelled exactly the same. She actually took off his clothes without his permission and made him wear this kind of clothing. Where were his clothes? His gaze suddenly froze on the painting in the room. The roses blotted out the sky and covered the earth, as if they had been dyed in blood. The child in the roses seemed to be trapped within, unable to break free or escape. He stared at it for a moment, then closed his eyes and looked away. The burning sensation on his back was uncomfortable, but wearing these clothes made him feel even worse. Xiyin got off the bed and wrapped himself in the sheets, then opened the door and left. There was a corridor outside, and all the doors to the rooms were tightly shut. Thump thump. Footsteps came from the stairs. Xiyin looked up and saw a young girl running up the stairs, panting. It wasn't her. Liang Gu and Xiyin's eyes met, and a trace of surprise flashed through her eyes. What a beautiful young man. But why was he wrapped in a sheet? Liang Ji's face turned even redder when she thought of what her senior had told her to do. She looked at Xiyin helplessly. Senior Minai told me to deliver some clothes. Xiyin's gaze lowered. Sure enough, there was a bag in her hands. The Minai she mentioned was that woman's name? Liang Gu carefully inched in front of Xiyin and handed him the bag. I still have class. Tell senior that I'll be leaving first. I'll help senior ask for leave. Liang Gu ran down the stairs with a red face. Xiyin flipped through the bag in his hands. They were all from the same brand. He turned back to his room and saw a figure jump in through the window. She just glanced at him and said calmly, "You're awake. Have the clothes been sent over?" "You helped me change my clothes?" Xiyin's grip on the bag tightened. "Do you think you can change it yourself?" Shisheng rolled his eyes. "What did you do to me?" She had changed his clothes, so she must have seen him naked. Shisheng looked down at his waist. "I want to do something to you. But you have to react." Xiyin didn't react for a moment, but when he did, he immediately used the bag to block his front. "Your actions are enough for you to die several times over," he said as he stared at Shisheng. Shisheng sneered and said, "Hey, think about your current situation before you talk tough. I can kill you with one hand now. When you're under someone else's roof, you have to lower your head." Xiyin. Shisheng put a few things on the table and said casually, "Take a look and see what's useful." Xiyin looked at the table and narrowed his eyes. His heart skipped a beat. These things weren't easy to get. How did she get them? After a moment he said, "It's useless. The things that hurt me aren't ordinary." "Oh." Shisheng raised her hand and tossed the items into a nearby trash can. The corners of Xiyin's eyes twitched. She really was casual. Just like last night, when she said she liked him on the street. Why did you bring me back? Shisheng tugged at his clothes and replied casually. You delivered yourself to my doorstep, so of course I had to take you back and raise you. Deliver yourself to your doorstep? Take me back? Raise me? This woman. Very good. Do you know who I am? She actually wanted to raise him. How bold. Shisheng looked up and blinked. He said seriously. No matter who you are, I've seen you naked. I'll take responsibility. Don't worry, I'm not a hoodlum who doesn't recognize people after putting on his pants. Xiyin. When did they sleep together? Don't talk nonsense. Xiyin's lips suddenly curled up, and a hint of wickedness flashed through his eyes. Xiyin, my name. Minai, Shisheng replied with a faint smile. If nothing unexpected happens, this name will accompany you for the rest of your life. She had a feeling that there was a 90% chance that the hidden mission was Feng Xiai. Xiyin scoffed and opened the bathroom door, blocking Shisheng's line of sight. Xiyin changed into his clothes in the bathroom. They were exactly his size. His face darkened again. Did she touch him all over last night? A girl could actually say something like that, and he changed and went out. The room was already empty. He went out and went downstairs. He saw her in front of the fridge in the kitchen. Her gaze was lowered as she stared at the trash can next to the fridge. Xiyin walked closer and saw the contents of the trash can. It was a few vials of blood. I'm so hungry. Shisheng turned his head, a pitiful expression on his face. Big brother, is there any way to stop the hunger? This was a major villain, so he definitely had a special method. Xiyin picked up the vials of blood from the trash can and handed them to her. A faint smile appeared on his face. Drink this and you won't be hungry anymore. Shisheng took a step back in disgust and placed his hand on the marble counter behind him. I don't like blood. We were born with blood as our companion. How can you dislike it? Xiyin approached Shisheng and opened the lid of the blood solution with one hand. The scent of blood immediately wafted out. What are you doing? Shisheng frowned. Xiyin's eyes flashed with a golden light. Didn't you ask if there's any way to stop the hunger? Drink it, and you won't be hungry anymore. Take it away. Shisheng's voice turned cold as he stared at Xiyin with a calm gaze. Those eyes were as black as ink, and there was a faint blue halo around the edges of his pupils. They were cold and cheerless, without the slightest hint of warmth. A girl shouldn't have such a pair of calm eyes. Xiyin's hand trembled. He closed the lid properly and threw it back into the trash can. He averted his gaze and smirked. There's only one way for you to stop drinking blood. Endure it. Shisheng turned around, turned on the tap, and splashed his face with cold water. How long do I have to endure it? A month, a few months, or even a year is possible. It depends on how dependent you are on blood. Xiyin's voice carried a hint of amusement. Is there no other way? There is. Shisheng turned to look at him. What is it? Xiyin stood with his side facing Shisheng. Shisheng saw the smile on Xiyin's face widen, and he slowly spat out two words. Death. Shisheng. I want to hack this guy to death. I want to King hack him to death. Motherf Ker. I wanted to hit him just now. Little fairy. This article is called Rose Wedding. Isn't it especially girlish? Haha. Cherub, Mary Sue. Little fairy. Do you understand girlish? Do you understand? Cherub, Mary Sue. Don't talk about it. Here's the ticket. Little fairy. Mary Sue it is. Anyway, I have no objections even if it's Jack Sue. Chapter 269. Shisheng was so hungry that he didn't want to go out. Liang Ge had sent him a text saying that she would help him apply for leave, so he didn't need to go to school. How did you get hurt? Shisheng looked at Xiyin, who was sitting on the sofa and didn't seem to be uncomfortable at all. He'd adapted quickly. Xiyin looked up, a smile on his face. Are you trying to help me get revenge to please me? If this can please you, I don't mind, Shisheng replied calmly. It was just killing someone. How hard could it be? A hint of disdain appeared in the corner of Xiyin's eyes, which angered Shisheng. What kind of expression was that? Did he not believe him, or did he not believe him? Tell me who did it. I can kill him in a matter of minutes. Shisheng walked to the side and propped himself up with one hand on the sofa as he spoke fiercely. You're no match for him. Shein lowered his eyes, his voice indifferent. What a joke. There's no one I can't kill. Shisheng snorted arrogantly. I can even kill that bunch of crazy people, let alone normal humans. Can he be more powerful than the one in the sky? Shein. Did this woman have violent tendencies? Every time she opened her mouth, she would kill him. She didn't have any of the temperament a woman should have. Shein stood up and changed the topic. I need to rest here for a few days. You still want to leave? Shisheng raised his brows. He wanted to leave after entering I's door. Did he think I was a hotel? I'll leave when I'm better. What else could he do here? In your dreams. Shisheng smiled wickedly, his voice light. Try running if you dare. Shein. Did he run into some kind of pervert? Was it too late for him to leave now? Don't think that I'll notice you just because you're doing this. Shein glanced at Shisheng. He had to admit that this method of attracting his attention was quite unique. Who needs your attention? Shisheng rolled his eyes. I'm the only one paying attention to you. Shein frowned. He suddenly leaned closer to Shisheng, his golden eyes staring straight into Shisheng's eyes. Shisheng looked at him innocently. Shein stretched out his hand and lifted Shisheng's chin slightly, the corners of his mouth slowly rising. You're very brave. If you're not afraid of death, then come closer to me. Shisheng slapped his hand away and retreated to a safe distance. Before she could confirm that he was Feng Xi, she didn't want to have any intimate contact with him. Since he dared to make a move on her, she would deal with him after she was sure. If it wasn't for Feng Xi, he would have beaten him to death. Was it Feng Xi? Then let's fight on the bed. Shein pulled out a handkerchief from somewhere and gently wiped his fingertips. It was as if he had touched something dirty just now. Shisheng. Congratulations, Princess Shein. You've successfully attracted my attention. Shisheng went upstairs. She was afraid that she would not be able to stop herself from hacking him to death if she stayed with him any longer. Shisheng carried the coffin out of the room and threw it into the storeroom. Some of the other furnishings in the room were also moved out. The originally small space immediately became spacious. Out of the corner of his eyes, Shisheng glanced at the painting on the wall. He felt a bit uncomfortable looking at it. After thinking for a moment, he took the painting down. Just as he was about to put it away, a faint voice came from behind him. Where did you get that painting? Shisheng turned to look at the person at the door. Shein was leaning against the door frame. Even his simple clothes could not hide the elegance and nobility he exuded. Shisheng rolled up the painting and placed it in the painting tube beside him. I don't know. It's been here for as long as I can remember. The original owner of the body did not remember where this painting came from. In her memories, it seemed like this painting had always been there. Then why are you putting it away now? Don't you think it's too oppressive? Shisheng raised his head, his eyes calm. Shein was silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. I like it a lot. Shisheng frowned. Shein continued. I want to see it again. You want me to spoil you? Shisheng's lips tugged into a fake smile. If you can't even do that, what right do you have to say that you like me? Shein said matter-of-factly. His eyes were filled with disdain. Because you're good-looking. It was a competition of who was more shameless. When he was shameless, even he was scared. Shein. So it was because of his looks. What a superficial woman. He retracted his smile and placed a piece of paper on the cabinet beside him. This is what I need. Shisheng walked over and glanced at the paper. Then he looked at Shein strangely. Shiyin's lips curled up. If you want to please me, then do as I say. Shisheng slapped the paper in Shiyin's face and sneered. Don't be unreasonable with me. When I'm unreasonable, even I'm scared. The paper slowly floated to the floor. Shein. Didn't he say he liked him? This liar. Shisheng took the painting and walked out. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and pointed at the room opposite. You'll sleep in that room. Shein frowned. The door to that room was open. There wasn't anything inside at all. He looked at Shisheng's room. I want to sleep here. If you're not afraid that I'll sleep with you tonight, then you can come. Shisheng's eyes curved into crescents. Jean. What a shameless woman. He stepped on the paper and angrily walked into the room opposite. Shisheng stared at the paper on the floor for a moment. Shisheng felt that not only were vampires delicate, they were also freaking expensive. Everything had to be custom-made, and it had to be made overseas. By the time Shisheng finished his call and confirmed everything, the money in the original owner's card had almost been squandered away. How did vampires earn money? No one had ever told her. It seemed like vampires didn't need to earn money. In any case, they were extremely rich. Shisheng turned on his computer and searched for some information about this world. After that, he opened the miraculous stock market software. The money-grubbing princess was online. By the time Shisheng invested the last of the money in the card into the stock market, she would be so poor that she could only eat dirt. So hungry. Rubbing his stomach, Shisheng got up and walked out of the room. The door to the opposite room was tightly shut. She didn't know what he was doing inside. Just as she was wondering what was going on, the door suddenly opened. Let's go out and eat. Shein looked at her. Shisheng raised his eyebrows. You want to drink blood? Didn't vampires drink blood when they ate? She didn't expect the great villain to be like this. Eat. Shein emphasized. Since he was so serious, Shisheng immediately reacted. Why would a vampire like you eat? Shisheng was speechless. You won't get indigestion if you eat. Shein looked at her with a burning gaze. Shisheng spread his hands. I don't have money. We'll just eat dirt. This guy was definitely going to go to a place where a meal cost tens of thousands. She didn't have the money for him to squander. Shein. He turned and went back to his room. After a while, he came back and handed her a card. It was a very ordinary card. It wasn't some limited edition black card. Shisheng. Very good. The great villain is very down to earth. Asterisk vote. Vote, 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 vote. Chapter 270. Just as Shisheng had expected, this guy probably chose the most expensive restaurant in the city. A single bowl of rice cost over 1,000 yuan. Is your rice made of diamonds? Shisheng's face twitched as he looked at the menu. Even a wastrel like her who used to squander money like water had never eaten such expensive rice before. The waiter only smiled and looked at Shein. Shisheng thought the waiter must be looking down on her. Same old rules. Shein didn't even look at the menu. Okay, please wait a moment, Mr. Shein. The waiter took out a pen and took down the order, then looked at Shisheng. Is this lady the same as Mr. Shein? I'm not eating. Shisheng tossed the menu down. Would she be able to survive after eating all this? The waiter smiled warmly and left respectfully. Are you a regular here? Shisheng looked at Shein. The waiter obviously knew this guy and was so respectful. Could it be that he was a domineering CEO in the human world? Shein looked up at her but didn't say anything. When the waiter finished serving the dishes, he also brought over a bright red drink. Shisheng sniffed and smelled a strong rose scent. Shein ate elegantly and quickly. He finished the food in no time, but he didn't touch the drink. Shisheng was so hungry that he wanted to scratch the table. Wouldn't he have indigestion after eating so much? Shein wiped his mouth and handed the card to Shisheng. Pay the bill. I thought you could just swipe your face. Shisheng raised his eyebrows curiously. The villain actually needed to pay the bill. This setting didn't make sense at all. Shein glanced at her coldly. Shisheng shrugged innocently and got up to pay the bill. After taking 2 steps, he stopped. Password. No need. No password? Shisheng rubbed the card with his hand. He hadn't looked closely before, but now he realized that this card was different from the bank cards issued outside. The logo on it was the same as this restaurant's. Seeing the string of zeros on the bill, Shisheng felt terrible. She had underestimated the spending here when she said that it would cost more than $10,000. There were only a few things here, and it was already more than $1 million. The waiter didn't look down on Shisheng's confused expression. He respectfully handed the bill to her. Miss, please sign here. Just sign Mr. Shiyin's name. Isn't this a shady shop? Shisheng picked up a pen and signed Shiyin's name. Miss, you must be joking. The waiter took the list back and handed her a new one. Who the hell is joking with you? I'm poor now and can't afford to be extravagant. I don't understand the thinking of rich people like you. Shisheng took the bill back. The drink on the table was gone. Shein didn't even look at it. He put the card away and walked out of the shop. Shisheng didn't realize what had happened until he walked out of the store. Why did she have to pay for him? Was he retarded? Shisheng looked up at the colorful signboard. This prodigal. How could she afford to raise him in the future? By the time they returned to the villa, it was almost dawn. Shisheng went straight to her room, but she couldn't fall asleep. She was starving. She wanted to drink blood. She was about to lose control. Shisheng ground her teeth and looked at her wrist. Kacha. The door made a slight sound. Shein stood at the door with his fingers on the doorknob. In the darkness, he could only see a curled-up figure on the bed. He slowly approached her. Why did you come to my place in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? Shisheng's voice was weak. Do you want me to sleep with you so badly? Shein stood by the bed. The moonlight outside the window covered his cheeks in a layer of light. He was so beautiful that it was unreal. She could see the veins throbbing on his neck. Shisheng suddenly lost her mind. She reached out and grabbed Shein. She flipped him over and pressed him under her. She bared her fangs and bit down on his neck. When her teeth came into contact with his cold skin, Shisheng shuddered and stopped abruptly. She moved away from him and awkwardly got off the bed. She stood by the bed and scolded in a low voice, "Get out." Shein propped himself up. Since you want to drink, why are you suppressing yourself? His voice was bewitching as it wound its way into Shisheng's heart, as if trying to break down her mental defenses. Get out. Shisheng grabbed something next to him. His voice was low and hoarse. Shein got up. Instead of leaving, he moved closer to Shisheng and forced her into a corner. He pulled his collar up, revealing his fair and slender neck. Don't restrain yourself. This is your instinct. Why make yourself suffer? Shein. Shisheng squeezed out the words through gritted teeth. If you don't get out, I'll do you right now. Shiyin's expression changed. He pulled up his collar and pulled out a cup from somewhere. He handed it to her. Drink. Shisheng smelled the strong rose scent again. What is this? It's poison. Do you dare to drink it? Even in the dark, Shisheng could sense that he was smiling. That strong rose fragrance seemed to have diluted her hunger a little. She took the cup and drank it in one gulp under Shiyin's gaze. The taste was very sweet. Her mouth was filled with the rose scent, and the liquid slid down her throat. It was like a dried-up soil being nourished by rain. Her hunger instantly lessened. Is there more? Shisheng licked her lips. Although the taste was a little sweet, it was still bearable for her hunger. What do you think this is? Shein scoffed. The moonlight elongated his shadow. He suddenly leaned over and pressed one hand against the wall, shortening the distance between them. Shisheng looked up slightly and met his gaze. His lips quirked. You really aren't afraid of death. Just as Shisheng was about to speak, he suddenly lowered his head and sucked on her lips. His cold tongue gently licked away the juice at the corner of her mouth. He tilted his head, and his lips brushed past her cheek. He leaned close to her ear. Minai, I hope you're not afraid of death. Who knows, maybe I'll accept you. Shisheng wanted nothing more than to slap Shiyin's face. But her body had no strength at all. Shein caught her limp body and smiled. I forgot to tell you. Although this thing can make you less hungry, it'll make you weak for an hour. Jean. Just you wait. Girls are too rough. I won't like it. Shein picked her up by the waist and placed her on the bed. But you're not bad like this. He covered her with the blanket. When he turned around, he happened to see the painting illuminated by the moonlight. In the darkness, the painting seemed even more vivid. The flowers fought to bloom, as if they wanted to spread out from the painting and take over this world. His eyes flickered, and his lips curled up slightly. Ignoring the murderous gaze behind him, he left the room. Little fairy. Did you vote today? Cherub. No. Little fairy. I didn't expect you guys to be like this, Cherub. Cherub. You're the one who's dirty, yet you blame others. Little fairy. Clap, clap, clap. Chapter 271. Sheng had planned to settle the score with Xiyin as soon as she could move, but as she waited, she actually fell asleep. Was this what they meant by filling one's stomach with lust? But when she went to settle the score with Xiyin the next day, she discovered that the bastard had actually run away. Sheng ground her teeth so hard they creaked. He actually dared to run away. Don't let I catch you. Sheng rubbed her stomach. She really wasn't that hungry anymore. The drink he gave her yesterday was the drink from the shop yesterday, right? But when did he bring it back? That shop. A sudden ringtone interrupted Sheng's train of thought. She turned around to answer the call. Senior, don't come to school. You mustn't come to school. Liang Ji's voice was filled with panic, and she even sounded like she was about to cry. What's wrong? Sheng frowned. Someone wants to catch you. They said you. Zizi. Don't. Senior? Did you hear what I said? Don't. Liang Ji's voice stopped abruptly. There was only silence on the other end of the line. A moment later, she heard a deep male voice. Minai, if you don't want anything to happen to your only friend, come to the mountain behind the school. I'll wait for you for an hour. With that, the person on the other end hung up. Sheng expressionlessly raised her phone. So the female lead had still identified her? She even dared to use someone else to threaten her. A moment later, she leisurely changed her clothes. She was wearing a long, dark blue dress. The hem of the dress was still embroidered with gorgeous blooming roses. By the time she arrived at the mountain behind the school, 2.5 hours had passed. There was a grassy field behind the mountain, and there were many people standing there. Liang Gu was tied to a chair. She looked like she had fainted, but there were no injuries on her body. Standing next to Liang Gu was a very young man. He wore glasses and looked very refined. You're late. Sheng knew this man. It was Du Ju. He was the one who had led the experiments on the original Sheng. It's your fortune that I'm here. Why do you care if I'm late or not? You'll die early if you stick your nose into other people's business, young man. Sheng's lips curved into a smile, her words incomparably arrogant. Du Ju had to die. The experiments he did on the body of the original owner could not be described as cruel. Du Ju's eyes narrowed as a dangerous glint flashed across them. Aren't you afraid that I'll hurt her? Why are you talking about morality and benevolence with a vampire? Are you out of your mind? Take medicine if you're sick. You don't look like you can't treat illnesses. If you really don't have money, with your looks, you just have to wave your finger, and there will naturally be people who will send you money. Kidnapping their own kind to threaten her. How noble could they be? He even put on a righteous face. How disgusting. Du Ju's expression darkened. Wasn't this Minai not good with words? Looking at him now, he was eloquent. How did he look like someone who wasn't eloquent? Minai, you've violated the treaty of the BHA, and now you've even spoken rudely. A middle-aged man beside Du Ju stepped forward. Obediently follow us back to the headquarters, and we can reduce your punishment. Which treaty did I violate? Tell me. Sheng looked at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man immediately replied, First attack humans. Who did I attack? The person involved requested confidentiality, so we can't tell you. Then how do I know you're not slandering me? Sheng's expression didn't change. You want to capture me just by making up a random reason? Do you think the BHA only belongs to you humans? The middle-aged man said in a low voice, We've already investigated. The evidence is irrefutable. There's no use in quibbling. If I want to kill someone, I definitely won't leave her alive. Sheng paused. Forget it. There's no point in explaining. In any case, you've already made up your mind to capture me. Sheng took out his iron sword, a malicious smile appearing on his face. If you want to capture me, then we'll have to see if you have the ability. If you die, then you can only blame yourself for not checking the almanac before leaving the house. Seeing the iron sword appear out of thin air, everyone's expressions changed, including Du Ju's. They'd never heard of a vampire using a weapon like a sword. They all relied on their sharp claws. Moreover, this iron sword had appeared out of thin air, so it definitely wasn't an ordinary sword. Minai, don't be so arrogant, the middle-aged man said angrily. You're not convinced? If you're not, then show me your arrogance. Shisheng snorted, then raised his iron sword and charged at the middle-aged man. Stop blabbering. I'll use you as an offering to my sword first. The middle-aged man was enraged. He took out a crossbow from his back. The crossbow was very small, and the bolts on it were different from ordinary ones. They were clearly meant to be used against vampires. Shisheng poured the little spiritual energy in his body into the iron sword. With a wave of his hand, a shockwave swept across the ground. What shocked everyone was that the grass on the ground had disappeared into thin air, leaving only the bare soil. The first person was swept away by the shockwave. Although he didn't disappear like the grass, his legs were severed. This power. Since when did vampires have such powerful strength? Duju's men tried to retreat, but the shockwave covered a large area and was extremely fast. Many of them didn't have time to retreat before they were swept away by the shockwave. For a moment, cries of agony filled the air. As for Liang Ji's area, the shockwave didn't even touch her. Duju was shocked. He'd miscalculated this vampire's strength. Was this the strength of a pure-blooded vampire? She was indeed powerful. Shisheng had no idea that Duju had attributed the iron sword's power to her. At this moment, she was still hacking at the middle-aged man. Since she said she'd use him as a sacrifice, she had to use him as a sacrifice. The crossbow in the middle-aged man's hand had already been cut in half by Shisheng. It fell to the ground and was swept away by the shockwave, turning into fine powder. Minai, stop! Duju shouted from afar. Your previous crime wasn't serious, but if you kill someone, only death awaits you. Shisheng's iron sword didn't stop because of Duju's words. It pierced the middle-aged man's chest. You. The middle-aged man's face was filled with disbelief. She really dared to attack. Shisheng smiled as she pulled the iron sword out of his chest. The middle-aged man's body twitched, and his eyes were filled with hatred. It was as if he wanted to bore a bloody hole through Shisheng. In the end, his head fell to the side, and he died with his eyes wide open. Shisheng flicked the blood off the iron sword, then raised her head to look at Duju. Her red lips parted slightly. Then let's kill our way out. She was clearly smiling, but no one could feel the slightest bit of warmth from her smile. That smile was too cold. Duju once again regretted his decision. This time, he'd really miscalculated. This vampire wasn't someone they could deal with at the moment. Just who was the one who'd collected the information? Shisheng's figure flashed, and her deep blue dress drew an elegant arc in the air. She charged back into the scattered crowd with extreme speed. Duju made a prompt decision, retreating with his core members. Shisheng had originally wanted to kill Duju, but Duju had actually abandoned a few people to give him time to escape. Those people who had been pushed out by Duju probably didn't even know what had happened. Only after killing them did Shisheng feel somewhat vexed. What should he do with these corpses? Dealing with the corpses was so troublesome. Pleading votes. Chapter 272. When Lianga woke up, she saw a corpse not far from her. It was covered in blood, and its eyes were wide open as it stared at her. There seemed to be some lingering fear and unwillingness in its eyes. The air was thick with the smell of blood. She almost screamed. Perhaps because she was too frightened, she suddenly lost her voice and couldn't make a sound. Her hands and feet were cold, and all the blood in her body seemed to have frozen. She remembered accidentally hearing someone mention Senior's name, and then hearing them say they wanted to capture her. She called Senior, and then they caught her. Because she was too noisy, they knocked her out. What happened after that? How did the people who caught her die here? Where's Senior? Lianga didn't know how she got up, but her tears fell uncontrollably. Her heart was filled with panic, and she trembled as she took out her phone. Just as she was about to make a call, a pair of slender hands pressed down on the phone. Lianga trembled, her mind blank. There's someone else? Am I going to die too? Then she was pulled into a slightly cold embrace. Just treat it as a nightmare and forget about it. A familiar voice sounded in her ear. Senior. A sense of weightlessness swept over her, and the wind whistled past her ears. Bang. Liang Ji's body trembled again. She felt unconscious again. The sudden explosion at the back of Rose Academy's mountain, creating a huge crater. This incident attracted the attention of the school. The school sent people to investigate, but they didn't find anything. For a while, this incident became the focus of the school's discussion. Liang Ge didn't go back to school until a week after the incident. She was actually a little scared. Although she fanatically loved vampires, she couldn't accept killing people right away. But if Senior didn't kill them, who knew what they would do to her? So after Liang Ge thought it through, the estrangement in her heart lessened. Liang Ge. Someone patted Liang Ge from behind. Ah! Liang Ge jumped in fright, but when she saw the person who patted her, she sighed in relief. Ai Wei, are you trying to scare me to death? Ai Wei sized Liang Ge up for a moment. You didn't come to class for a week. Are you okay? Ai Wei and Liang Ge were in the same class, and they used to have a good relationship. But because Mi Nai hated Ai Wei, Liang Ge distanced herself from her. I'm fine, it's just a little cold. Liang Ge patted her wildly beating chest. The academy hasn't been safe recently. You should be careful. Ai Wei didn't probe further, merely giving him a reminder. Liang Ji's heart thumped and her face paled. She nodded at Ai Wei. Thank you. Then he ran into the distance. After Liang Ge left, a tall boy walked out from behind a nearby pillar. The man was very handsome, but he was a little feminine, unlike Zhuo Lai, who was cool and domineering. Seeing the man, Ai Wei immediately flashed him a brilliant smile. Sikong. Sikong Sa slowly smiled. What do you think? Ai Wei stepped forward and hugged Sikong Sa's arm. She looked a little scared. She ran off before I even asked. But how does Sikong know that she knows what happened that day? Sikong Sa lovingly scratched Ai Wei's nose. She has Mi Nai's scent on her. It's very strong. She must have been with Mi Nai these past few days. I really didn't expect Senior Mi Nai to be a vampire. Ai Wei's face paled. Sikong, are there no good vampires? Sikong Sa stroked Ai Wei's head. They're born with blood as their companion. How could there be any good ones? Ai Wei, you're different. Those vampires all want you, so don't stray too far from me in the future. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you as coincidentally as last time. Ai Wei nodded. She'd really been scared out of her wits last time. If not for Sikong Sa, she really didn't know if she'd still be standing here. Sikong Sa said vampires were all selfish and cunning creatures. They would do anything to achieve their goals. After that incident, she'd had less contact with Zhuo Lai recently. Most of the time, she was with Sikong Sa. Don't be afraid. I'll protect you. Sikong Sa pulled Ai Wei into his arms. Ai Wei felt much more at ease being hugged by the person she liked. She'd better see less of Zhuo Lai in the future. After all, he was also a vampire. Ai Wei and Sikong Sa parted ways and prepared to return to class. However, on the way back, she ran into Shi Sheng, who walked with a swagger. A hint of strangeness and panic flashed through her eyes. She actually dares to come to the academy. Shi Sheng also saw Ai Wei. There weren't many people around, but there were quite a few people paying attention to her. Shi Sheng had no choice but to give up on drawing his sword and walk towards Ai Wei. Ai Wei's face paled. Her first reaction was to run. I'll go. Shi Sheng stared at the female lead who disappeared in a puff of smoke. All female leads are bound to have at least one skill. Max escape technique. Shi Sheng had no interest in playing a vampire hunting game in school, so he turned around and walked back to class. She hadn't even stepped into the classroom when she heard people discussing the explosion at the back of the mountain. It's been so many days, and the school still hasn't given us an accurate explanation. How many explosives would it take to blow up such a big hole? Are we still safe here? I'm scared whenever I think about someone sneaking into the school with so many explosives. Now I have a driver pick me up every day. The school can't find anything at all. How are they going to give us an explanation? Shi Sheng walked past them, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. He hid his achievements and fame. She'd only wanted to blow up those corpses. Let's not talk about that. I just got some good news. Everyone's attention was immediately drawn to her. What good news? Just now, when I was helping the homeroom teacher deliver some documents to the principal, I saw a boy in the principal's office. He's especially good-looking. From what they said, that boy seems to want to study at our school. How good-looking is he? The moment a handsome boy was mentioned, the girl became especially excited. The girl who'd started the conversation proudly waved the phone in her hand. I secretly took a picture. This is a first-hand photo. You guys are in for a treat. Quick, let me see. I want to see too. The girl tapped on the screen a few times before finally stopping on a picture. Because it was secretly taken, the image was a bit blurry. A youth in a white shirt was sitting on the sofa in the principal's office. His head was slightly lowered, and his fine hair covered his eyes and brows. But that didn't affect his handsome face in the slightest. The corners of his mouth were slightly upturned, as if he was smiling. So handsome. He's not bad at all compared to Sikong Sa and Zwalai. Coming here to study was the wisest choice in my life. Is he really going to study at our school? I don't know. The girl took the phone back, her face full of infatuation. If he studies at our school, I'll change my husband. You change husbands every day. Aren't you ashamed? The girl next to her sneered. The girl was unconvinced. You even have several husbands. At least I'm loyal. Come on, you're only loyal for a few days. You're such a womanizer. Change husbands. Change husbands, la 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 ha ha ha, change husbands. Please vote. Chapter 273. Shisheng happened to be standing not too far away. When the girl put her phone away, he caught a glimpse of the person on the screen. Who else could it be but that bastard Shiin? Shisheng's fingers twitched. A strange smile appeared on his face. Just in time. Shisheng left through the back door and headed toward the principal's office. He waited downstairs for a while. Sure enough, he saw a figure coming down the stairs. When he passed by a flower bush, Shisheng grabbed him, dragged him into the bush, and pressed him against the wall. Her hand accurately grabbed Shiyin's wrist. But before she could transfer her spiritual energy, Shiyin grabbed her wrist with one hand and grabbed her waist with the other. With a twist of his feet, their positions were reversed. It's only been a few days and you're already in a hurry to throw yourself at me, Shiyin leaned closer to Shisheng. His eyes seemed to be smiling. Shisheng didn't expect this guy to be so strong. Fine, it wasn't that Shiyin was strong. It was just that the villains she'd met before were always full of problems. This was what a normal villain should be like. Shisheng didn't struggle. He only grabbed Shiyin's arm with the hand that could still move. Strands of spiritual energy flowed into Shiyin's body. He furrowed his brows. He didn't know what this spiritual energy was. He wanted to resist it, but he couldn't find a way. He could only let the spiritual energy flow into his body. Just as he was about to let go of Shisheng, he suddenly had a strange feeling. It was a resonance that came from the depths of his heart. And the woman in front of him. The corners of Shisheng's lips slowly rose. She knew it. Shiyin's expression softened when he saw her. His eyes, which used to be completely emotionless, slowly began to ripple. Shisheng let go of Shiyin. Her eyes curved as she said, "You're so handsome. What's so strange about me throwing myself at you? Everyone loves beauty. Handsome, do you want to join me?" When she let go of him, that strange feeling didn't disappear. Instead, it grew clearer and clearer. Shisheng's attitude changed too quickly. Shiyin wasn't used to it. He let go of Shisheng and stared at his wrist for a few seconds. He was certain that she hadn't done anything to him. But what was with that strange feeling? Shiyin frowned at her. "I like you. It's true this time," Shisheng said with a serious face. "Shiyin. So last time was a joke?" "Ha." Shiyin turned and left. "Why are you leaving? I've seen your body, haven't I? Shouldn't you ask me to take responsibility?" "I'll really take responsibility." Shisheng chased after her. Shiyin sped up. She still dared to bring up this matter? How shameless. Shiyin was so angry that he wanted to strangle this woman to death, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. That familiar feeling made him unable to do anything. He didn't like this feeling. An expert absolutely couldn't have a weakness. Shiyin's figure flashed a few times before he swiftly left Shisheng's sight. Sheng stood there angrily. The road to chasing her husband was long and arduous. It seemed that it would be faster to tie her up and sleep with her. Based on all the information she had, she analyzed Feng Xi's personality. Sundra, shy. As for the rest, it was probably due to the personality of the body he was using. However, even if he had inherited the host's personality and memories, some of his own personality would still be revealed inadvertently. Sheng didn't see Xiyin for the entire afternoon, but she wasn't in a hurry. What was hers would be hers sooner or later. If it wasn't hers, then she would snatch it back. It would still be hers. After school, Sheng saw Ai Wei walking past with a tall and handsome boy arm in arm. She raised her eyebrows. Wasn't this the Xikong Sa that the original owner liked? He was quite good-looking. But her Feng Xi was still the best-looking. He was good-looking in everything. The two of them chatted and laughed, a harmonious scene. However, when Ai Wei saw Sheng, the smile on her face froze. What's wrong? Xikong Sa asked in concern when Ai Wei suddenly stopped talking. He followed Ai Wei's gaze and saw a young girl in a black dress, standing in front of a flower bed below the school building, smiling as she looked over. Minai. Xikong Sa pulled Ai Wei into his arms. It's fine. She won't dare to do anything. This was a school. She wouldn't act so recklessly. The three of them were in a deadlock. Time seemed to stop between them. In the end, Sheng made a throat-slitting gesture at Ai Wei. Ai Wei trembled in fright and leaned closer to Xikong Sa. Sheng glanced behind them. Zuolai was standing not too far away, watching them. There was a bulletin board on her side, blocking her figure. Zuolai didn't see her. He only saw Ai Wei and Xikong Sa hugging each other. He sat and watched the male lead and the supporting male lead tear each other apart. Sheng met Xiyin the next morning. He was sitting in the last seat by the window. His head was half propped up as he stared at the swaying leaves outside. The girls who had arrived early were huddled together, discussing him in low voices. Some of the bolder girls even went up to talk to him, but he didn't seem to hear them. His posture didn't change at all. Classmate, what's your name? Xiyin ignored the girl who asked. The girl didn't give up. From now on, we'll be classmates. I'm Zhaoya, the class president. If you have any questions, you can look for me. Xiyin still ignored her. The girl bit her lip, somewhat unwillingly returning to the group. How was it? How was it? Zhaoya shook her head. The other girls looked disappointed. Hey look. Minai went over. Heavens, even Minai is bowing down to him. My new husband is so handsome. Minai always puts on airs, but those guys still flatter her. She's going to get slapped in the face this time. The other girls were jealous and envious. They'd heard that Minai came from a good family. She was pretty and had a good family background. Even if she was a little aloof, there were still people who flattered her. Sheng pulled out the chair in front of Xiyin and sat down. Handsome, what a coincidence. We're in the same class. Xiyin stretched his neck and tilted his head to glance at her. What a coincidence. I chose this class. He really wanted to reply. But if he replied like that, who knew how she'd take advantage of him? So Xiyin didn't say anything. He looked away and continued to stare outside. What's there to look at outside? Can it compare to me? Sheng cupped his face. Look at me. I guarantee you won't be able to stop. Xiyin. I want to strangle her. Sheng talked nicely for a long time, but Xiyin didn't say anything. Sheng was furious. I'll be a little gentler. This guy wants to take advantage of me and rebel. Just you wait, I'll kidnap you back tonight. Sheng suddenly stood up, scaring the people in the classroom into widening their eyes and holding their breaths. The aloof goddess was about to flip out. But she didn't. They only saw the aloof goddess get up and leave the classroom in a huff. That's it. Even the aloof goddess had been defeated by the new male god. Their failure to hit on him just now didn't seem to be anything shameful. Sure enough, with a comparison, their hearts felt much better. Asterisk, come on, get in formation. Snatch her back and raise her. Chapter 274. And so Xiyin stayed in Sheng's mansion. But he never went to school with Sheng. Even if Shisheng shamelessly followed him around, he would disappear on his own. Later, Shisheng began to openly pursue him. Flowers, confessions, and anything else that could be done was played by her. Everyone in the school knew that their aloof goddess was madly pursuing Xiyin, and many of the boys found Xiyin an eyesore. Taking advantage of Shisheng's absence, a few boys cornered Xiyin in the classroom. The leader of the boys was Minai's #1 fan. He shoved Xiyin's desk aside, and the books on it scattered all over the floor. Our goddess is chasing after you, and you're still putting on airs? You're awesome. Xiyin looked at him unmoved. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. The boy sneered. If you don't explain yourself today, don't even think about leaving. Xiyin narrowed his eyes, and a golden light flashed in them. His hands hanging by his sides slowly clenched into fists. The boy was still oblivious. How is our goddess not good enough for you? How dare you give her that attitude? That's her business, Xiyin said coldly. F***ck. The boy was enraged by Xiyin's cold attitude. He waved his hand and ordered the men behind him. Teach him a lesson. When Shisheng rushed to the classroom, he saw the boy lying on the floor, seemingly dead. The rest of his lackeys were huddled in a corner, trembling. Xiyin looked at him, his eyes unreadable. Shisheng walked over and anxiously grabbed his hand, looking him up and down. Are you okay? Xiyin pursed his lips and shook his head. He's dead. Shisheng looked at the person on the floor. He was prostrated on the floor, his face pale and his eyes bloodshot. She remembered this person. He often used his title as her #1 fan to bully the boys who liked her in the school. He had even caused a death, but because his family was rich and powerful, the people in the school were afraid of him. As long as you're okay. Shisheng retracted his gaze and straightened out his wrinkled shirt. Xiyin looked down at him. She didn't seem to care about anything. Except for him. Police sirens suddenly sounded outside the school building. Shisheng narrowed his eyes and looked at the person huddled in the corner. Those people were like frightened ostriches. When Shisheng glanced at them, they immediately explained in trembling voices. I didn't call the police. It's not me. I didn't do it either. It wasn't me. The group of people said that they didn't call the police, but now the police were here. Shisheng glanced out of the window. Very good, they have surrounded the teaching building. The person who called the police said that someone inside wanted to blow up the school building, right? The sirens kept ringing. There were still some students in the teaching building. When they heard the noise, they all ran out. The person inside, listen up. You've been surrounded. Don't hurt the hostages. You can tell us if you need anything. We can help you, but don't hurt the hostages. One after another, the shouts spread throughout the entire teaching building. Shisheng's expression didn't change at all as he slowly straightened Xiyin's clothes. Xiyin grabbed her hand. This has nothing to do with you. You should leave. The police were here. This was going to be troublesome. Shisheng looked up at him, his gaze calm. She tugged at the corners of her lips and smiled. Are you concerned about me? Xiyin let go of her. I'm just stating the facts. He wasn't concerned about her. This had nothing to do with her in the first place. There was no need to drag her into this. Since you don't care about me, it doesn't matter to you whether I leave or not, Shisheng said with a straight face. Minai. Xiyin's tone became heavier. The atmosphere between the two of them suddenly became strange. For some reason, there was no sound outside. It was as if the entire world had fallen silent. Duju arrived quickly with his men. He negotiated with the police first. Although the police found it strange, they had no choice but to let them in since the higher-ups had given the order. Duju rushed to the classroom. When he saw the person inside, his pupils constricted. Jean. Why was he here? Shouldn't he be in a deep sleep right now? He had never seen Xiyin before, but there was a picture of him in the Du family's records. According to the records, he would only wake up after at least 100 years. Why was he here now? Xiyin shifted his gaze from Shisheng to the man at the door. His eyes shone with a golden light. You're from the Du family? Yes. Duju braced himself and replied. Duju looked at Shisheng, who was standing beside Xiyin. His heart skipped a beat. Did she know Xiyin? A single purebred vampire was already difficult enough to deal with, But now there was Shein. His ancestors had said that Shein was a very strange vampire. He wasn't a purebred, but his strength was greater than any other purebred vampires. Moreover, he seemed to have lived for a very long time. There were records of him that could be traced back to 1,000 years ago. Heh. Shein chuckled softly, his meaning unclear. If it had been a human, it would have been troublesome. However, since it was someone from the BHA, it was much easier. Duju gritted his teeth. He couldn't afford to offend Shein. His tone softened. Why is Lord Shein here? To study, Shein replied. Duju didn't know who he was giving face to. Duju, you've lived for so long. What are you studying for? Fine, he was a big shot. He couldn't afford to offend him. I received news that a vampire had attacked a human. Duju tried to make his voice sound more humble. His gaze landed on the lifeless corpse on the ground. Lord Shein, can you explain? Shein narrowed his eyes. His voice was filled with mockery. The Du family is all dead. Didn't they teach you any manners? Duju reacted. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Even if his grandfather was here, he probably wouldn't dare ask Shein to explain anything. It was Duju who spoke inappropriately. Duju was furious, but he could only suppress it. The man in front of him was someone he couldn't afford to offend. Duju's humble attitude caused the people behind him to look at him in confusion. Who was this man? Duju took a deep breath. Then can we take a look at the corpse? Duju's gaze drifted towards Shisheng. He wanted to confirm that she wasn't related to Shein. If that was the case, perhaps he could use Shein to capture her. She had killed so many of their people last time. She had already formed a grudge with them. However, Duju was destined to be disappointed. He watched as Shisheng took a step back and grabbed Shiyin's arm. The latter only furrowed his brows slightly, but he didn't shake her off. Duju. When did the two of them get together? This didn't make sense. Shisheng held Shiyin's arm and twirled her fingers around his. She tilted her head up slightly. I didn't expect your thigh to be so thick. Let me hug you. Even a lunatic like Duju was so wary of him. He didn't waste his reputation as a villain. Shein pinched her hand that was messing around in his palm. He pursed his lips and gave Shisheng a haughty look. Lord Shein. Duju became even more cautious. Minai and Shein were actually so close. The matter from last time could only be left unsettled. It's just a corpse. If you want to take a look, go ahead. If it's not enough, I can get you a few more fresh ones, Shisheng answered before Shein could. Duju's eyes flashed. He remembered the records of his ancestors. Shein didn't like people making decisions on their own. Minai's lack of consideration might earn Shiyin's disdain. Chapter 275. Duju looked at Shein expectantly. Shein didn't say anything, as if he agreed with her words. Duju. Is this world a fantasy? Suppressing the doubts in his heart, Duju ordered someone to bring the people in the corner out of the classroom. Only then did he bring two people forward to examine the corpse. Team leader. There's a bite mark on the neck due to excessive blood loss. The person who spoke lifted his collar, revealing a bite mark on the neck. It was already black, so it was obvious that the bite had been there for some time. How long has it been? The person lowered his head to examine the corpse again, then answered cautiously, about 18 hours. Duju didn't seem surprised at all. He ordered someone to bring in some tools and fiddled with the corpse. We can only suppress it temporarily. Send it back to the headquarters within 4 hours. Yes. The few of them quickly packed the corpse and brought it away. Duju glanced at Shisheng, then cupped his hands towards Shein. Sir Shein, this is already the third case this month. All of the victims were fed blood after being bitten. What do you think about this? When vampires fed blood to humans, some would become low-level vampires, while others would die. That's an interesting question. Shisheng sneered. Are you suspecting me or him? Duju glared at Shisheng. Last time they lost so many people and still failed to catch her. This time, she even managed to get close to Shein. But in the end, he had no choice but to lower his head. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to ask if Sir Shi'in has any clues. Shisheng wanted to argue with Duju, but Shi'in stopped him and pulled him into his embrace, pressing his face against his chest. North of the city. As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them disappeared from his sight. The people outside immediately rushed in. Team leader, who is he? They had never seen their team leader act so humbly before. Duju didn't answer. Instead, he warned them, don't go looking for death when you see him in the future, understand? Then what about me, Nai? Duju was silent for a moment, then said in a low voice, give up. Find another target. Someone was unconvinced. But she killed so many of our people. Duju's sharp gaze swept over, and that person immediately lowered his head. That man isn't someone we can provoke. Duju's eyes were dark. At least not now. One day he would find a way to deal with him. The others looked at each other. They were even more curious, but no one dared to ask. Send someone to the northern outskirts of the city to investigate. Yes. Shisheng was taken away by Shi'in and left in a secluded area of the academy. Shisheng was still lying in Shiyin's arms. His body seemed colder than hers. Let go. Shi'in tugged at Shisheng's hand. Shisheng refused and hugged her even tighter. Shi'in. He tugged at her a few times, but he couldn't pull her away at all. He could only give up, but his tone was somewhat mocking. Do you like hugging men so much? God knows how many men this woman has. Thinking up to this point, Shi'in felt a little stifled. I only like to hug you. Shiyin's expression grew even more mocking. How many people have you said these words to? Shisheng looked up. Are you jealous? Shi'in. Jealous my ass. He was not jealous. Absolutely not. Shi'in suddenly pulled Shisheng away roughly, then left with a dark expression. Shisheng chuckled as he chased after him. He explained seriously. I've only said this to you. Really, I swear. Shi'in didn't slow down. Don't walk so fast. Shisheng almost had to jog to keep up. You have to believe in my sincerity. Not just anyone can catch my eye. Sincerity? What sincerity? If he was ugly, would she still approach him like this? Shiyin's attitude toward Shisheng was still as bad as ever. Shisheng persisted in chasing after him. After that, the BHA would occasionally appear around them, probably to keep an eye on them. As for the dead person, the BHA had used some unknown method to ensure that the family didn't say a word. There was no clue as to why the human had been bitten. The BHA was still in the midst of an intense investigation. The male and female leads seemed to be in a cold war. Sikong Sa and the female lead's relationship, on the other hand, was going very smoothly. Shisheng could occasionally see the two of them showing off their affection. Of course, he could also see the male lead standing in the distance, looking at the two of them with an extremely sour expression. She and the female lead weren't in the same class. As long as they didn't do it on purpose, they wouldn't run into each other. Shisheng had been busy dealing with Shi'in recently. To avoid trouble, he would avoid the female lead whenever he saw her. Shi'in woke up at night and heard a sound outside his door. He frowned. What was that woman doing in the middle of the night? He threw off the covers and got out of bed. When he reached the door, he suddenly paused. Her scent was so strong. Shi'in opened the door and walked out. The entire corridor was filled with her scent. The door to her room was open. The scent came from downstairs. Shi'in went downstairs. The lights in the living room weren't turned on. He could vaguely make out a curled-up figure on the sofa. Shiyin's heart skipped a beat. It had been almost 2 months since she last ate. Shi'in. Shi'in replied faintly. He walked around the sofa and approached her. I'm so hungry. Shisheng sat up from the sofa and looked up at the person standing in front of him. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light. Ever since she drank the drink Shi'in gave her, she hadn't felt hungry. But today, the hunger had returned, and it was even stronger than before. Shi'in silently rolled up his sleeves and placed it next to Shisheng's mouth. Drink. Shisheng wanted to take a bite, but he couldn't. She shrank back. Last time that. It's too late. You can't get it. Shi'in interrupted her. After a moment of silence, he said, drinking too much isn't good for you. Last time he was just testing her. He didn't expect her to really drink it. Now that they were in a relationship, he naturally couldn't let her drink that thing again. I'll just bear with it. Drinking blood? She really couldn't accept it. Go back to your room. Shisheng shrank into a corner of the sofa. Shiyin didn't know what she was being so awkward about. She even dared to do something like that. It was just drinking blood. What was there to be so pretentious about? Forget it. It was her own business if she didn't want to drink it. Shiyin retracted his hand and turned to go upstairs. The living room quickly quieted down. Shisheng scratched the sofa. What kind of damn setting was this? So hungry. So hungry. Shisheng felt his stomach cramping. All that was left in his brain was blood. It smelled so good. It came from outside. She wanted to drink it. Shisheng got up from the sofa and walked towards the door. Just as she was about to open the door, someone suddenly pulled her from behind. She was forced to turn around and press her back against the door. You'd rather torture yourself than drink my blood, hmm? A low, raspy voice rang out beside her ear, pulling her back from the brink of losing control. She shook her head and answered weakly, I don't like blood. Drinking that kind of thing. She couldn't accept it. Heh. What kind of vampire didn't drink blood? I'll give you one more chance. Are you sure you don't want to drink it? Shiyin raised his hand to Shisheng's mouth. Shisheng turned her head away. She wouldn't drink it even if she was beaten to death. Good morning. Chapter 276. Shisheng's refusal seemed to have triggered something in Shiyin, for he suddenly laughed. He carried Shisheng back to the room. To prevent Shisheng from moving around, he pressed her down and pinned one of her hands down with his leg. What are you doing? Shisheng frowned at him. She was already so hungry, but this guy was still tormenting her. Did he want her life? Shiyin grabbed her other hand and pressed it to the side. He leaned over slightly and teased. Let's see what happens after you drink it. What? Shisheng watched as Shiyin raised her wrist to his mouth. He bared his sharp fangs and slowly sank them into her wrist. Shiyin sucked in a mouthful. Under Shisheng's strange gaze, he leaned over and kissed her. A cool liquid flowed into her mouth. It didn't have the thick taste of blood. It was a very strange taste. Shisheng couldn't tell what it was, but when she thought about how it was blood, she wanted to vomit. Shiyin pried open her teeth and pressed down on her tongue. The liquid slid down her esophagus. No. Shisheng suddenly began to struggle violently. Shiyin was very strong. She couldn't break free at all. She could only let the liquid enter her esophagus. After making sure that she had swallowed it all, Shiyin sucked in 2 more mouthfuls. No, let go of me. Shisheng's voice changed slightly. Shiyin looked down at her with blood in his mouth. His expression froze. There was actually a hint of panic in her eyes. He had never seen such emotion in her eyes before. Or rather, he had never seen much emotion in her eyes before. It was just drinking blood. Did she have to be so? Shiyin didn't know why, but he loosened his grip and swallowed the blood in his mouth. Shiyin stretched out his hand. Shisheng shrank back, her eyes filled with wariness. Shiyin suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart. It was as if an invisible hand was squeezing his heart, making it difficult for him to breathe. I'm not letting you drink it. Shiyin didn't realize that his voice had softened. Shisheng stared at him for a while, as if trying to discern something. After a long time, the wariness in her eyes slowly faded. Shiyin pulled her into his arms and rolled over to lie down on the bed. Shisheng leaned against his chest. Her breathing was so slow that it was almost non-existent. Shiyin reached out and touched her nose to make sure she was still breathing. Shisheng's mind was in a mess, and his heart was filled with killing intent. But she couldn't bear to do anything to him. Her bottom line had been lowered again and again for him. Shisheng tightened his grip on Shiyin's collar. It was the last time. There would never be a next time. There were some things that he could never touch. I'm sorry. He didn't know that her reaction would be so intense. Shisheng loosened his grip and didn't say anything. The room fell into silence. Shiyin did not know whether she was awake or not, but he maintained his posture and did not move until the sky brightened. The pure-colored blanket was stained with red liquid, and the wound on his hand had disappeared. Shisheng, who hadn't moved the whole night, got out of his arms, got out of bed, and left the room. Not a single word was spoken. Shein frowned slightly and followed her out of the room. However, he only saw her door close in front of him. For the next few days, Shisheng ignored him, but she would still wait for him after school. She just wouldn't talk to him. Shein was used to her flirting with him from time to time, so her sudden silence made him feel uncomfortable. But he did go a little overboard that night, and he didn't know what to do to make her stop being angry. Shisheng wasn't angry at Shein. Rather, she was angry at herself for not being able to get over it. There were some things that she couldn't forget no matter how hard she tried. Shisheng dragged his tired body back to his room, but he saw Shein there. He was sitting on the edge of the bed. When he saw her, he immediately stood up. "You're back." Shisheng glanced at him. "What's the matter?" If it's about what happened that night, you don't have to apologize. I don't blame you. It was her own problem. How could she blame him? He did it for her." Shisheng turned away. "I want to rest. You can go back to your room." Shein opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. After a moment of hesitation, he reached out to take off his clothes. "What are you doing?" Shisheng pressed his hand down. His tone was a little harsh. Shiyin's face was slightly red and he couldn't speak clearly. "If this can make you feel better." Anyway, we've already. In this lifetime, I can only have one partner. Even if she died, he wouldn't have a new partner. Shisheng looked at him strangely. Was he planning to repay her with his body? "Then do you like me?" Shein pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Seeing her in a bad mood made him feel bad as well. This was probably because he liked her, right? Ever since that strange sense of familiarity that had appeared in his body that day, he had wanted to get close to her. But Shisheng retracted his hand. "Let's talk about it when you like me." Shein looked up at him, his fingers pinching the buttons of his shirt. Shisheng sighed and went forward to button his shirt for him. Then he stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the cheek. "It's my problem these past few days. I need some time to recover. I like you and I want you, but I won't use this to trample on you. Last time, nothing happened between us." Shein was surprised. "Go back to sleep." Shisheng's lips tugged into a smile. Shein lowered his head. Previously, he had been feeling very uncomfortable because of this matter. She had used despicable means to get him. But now, she was telling him that nothing had actually happened between them. He suddenly felt a little disappointed. As for what he was disappointed about, he couldn't explain it. Shein had disappeared again. Shisheng discovered this the next day. There was no one in the villa, and there was no one in the school. Shein didn't use a phone, so Shisheng couldn't find him at all. Shisheng felt a headache coming on. Was this guy the type to disappear at the slightest disagreement? Oh my god. What kind of weirdo was this? Shisheng was already in a bad mood, and Shiyin's disappearance made his mood even worse. When she reached the school, she was stopped by someone. The person who stopped her was none other than the female lead. It was probably because she hadn't been jumping around recently, so the plot lord wasn't happy. As the female lead, how could she not jump around? "Mina, you did it, didn't you?" Ai Wei's abrupt question caused Shisheng to be completely confused. "What did I do?" "Lead-sama, please don't be unreasonable, okay? Why aren't you saying anything? You don't have anything to say, do you?" Ai Wei's face was full of righteousness. "Shisheng, I don't even understand what you're saying. What do you want me to say? Are you saying that I'm as beautiful as a flower?" Shisheng couldn't help but roll his eyes at the female lead. He walked around her and headed inside. Don't try to reason with the female lead. The female lead's reason is reason. No matter how much you say, it's all bullshit. Minai, stop right there. Ai Wei once again reached out to block Shisheng's path. Hey. The female lead's guts had grown big. Didn't she always turn and run when she saw me before? Does she have someone backing her now? Maybe she's setting a trap for me. The human heart is sinister. I'm still a baby. It's better to just ignore her. Shisheng immediately left. The female lead had a mortal body, so he naturally couldn't catch up. Shisheng was afraid that if he quarreled with the female lead, he wouldn't be able to control his power. Asterisk little fairy. I'm about to lose control of my power. Please use a ticket to seal me. Chapter 277. Ai Wei probably hadn't expected Shisheng to react this way, and was momentarily stunned. She only woke up when someone patted her from behind. She turned to look at the person who patted her, and called out in a small voice. Sikongshi, it's fine. You've done your best. Leave the rest to them. Sikongsa smiled and patted Ai Wei's head. Ai Wei bit her lip. Was she really the one who did those things? Didn't someone take a video of it? Sikongsa narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction Shisheng had left. Ai Wei's gaze hardened. Shisheng entered the academy and ran into Zwilai not long after. Did I forget to check the almanac before leaving today? The male and female leads are taking turns to deliver themselves to me. They've set up a trap ahead. Be careful. Zwilai coldly tossed out these words. He had no intention of pestering Shisheng endlessly. Then he turned and disappeared from sight. What the hell? Speak clearly. And why did the male lead suddenly change sides? A series of traps? Remind her that there's a trap ahead. In a situation where we're clearly enemies, she definitely won't believe him, so she'll go check it out. Then there really is a trap ahead. Shisheng felt like he was coming up with a conspiracy theory again. Maybe the male lead was just reminding me? After all, they're both purebred vampires. There aren't many purebred vampires in this world. We're all vampires. Why the rush to kill each other? Regardless of whether it was true or not, Shisheng chose to leave the academy. Since my thigh isn't around, it's better to just be a quiet beauty. It's not suitable to kill recently. Thus, the group waited in the dark. They waited from morning until the sky was filled with stars, but they still didn't see her. The path they'd set up their ambush was the only path she'd take to get to her classroom. Why isn't she here? The people keeping watch outside the academy didn't see her leave either. Then where did she go? When Ai Wei heard this news from Sikongsa, she was also somewhat puzzled. She was supposed to lead Shisheng to their ambush spot, but before she could say anything, she left. The plan had failed. She really did enter the academy, but I didn't see her leave. Sikong, will she kill again? Ai Wei was a little scared. The recent events were too cruel. Countless people in the academy were bitten by vampires, and all of them were people she was familiar with. When she saw the people she had joked and chatted with yesterday lying on the ground with pale faces the next day, Ai Wei was badly frightened. It was like a conspiracy against her, and the people behind her were trying to scare her. Later, someone took a picture of that person. And that person was none other than Minai. She had been suspicious of her for a long time. She was able to enter and leave the academy freely, and she even had a conflict with her. Sikongsa hugged Ai Wei and gently patted her back. Don't be afraid. I'm here. She can't hurt you. Ai Wei buried her head in Sikongsa's chest. Thank you, Sikong. Silly, you're my girlfriend. Isn't it my duty to protect my girlfriend? Ai Wei smiled through her tears. For the next few days he didn't go to school. He just wandered around outside the school for a while. There were quite a few people keeping watch around here. However, she had been immersed in her own world, and had no idea what had happened. Liang Gu was eating dinner when she received a call from Shisheng. She looked at the number on her phone screen, and didn't answer it immediately. Why isn't Gugu picking up? Mother Liang looked at her daughter with a strange expression. Liang Gu put her phone on silent and smiled calmly. I don't know. Maybe it's a salesperson. Mother Liang's face was filled with disgust. People these days are really annoying. Clearly, she was annoyed by a salesperson's phone call. After dinner, Liang Gu took her phone into her room. She dismantled the phone she had just bought, installed a new SIM card, and dialed a number. Liang Gu entered the bathroom and turned on the shower. A voice came from the other end. Senior, I'm being watched. Long story short, there have been a lot of blood-sucking incidents in the academy recently. Someone took a video of you sucking blood. And right now, that whatever alliance is at the academy is trying to catch you. Where's your house? The person on the other end didn't ask anything else. Instead, he asked an insignificant question. 37 Tianming Road. Although Liang Ge found it strange, she still gave the address. Liang Ji's family background wasn't bad, so she lived in a standalone villa. When Shisheng arrived outside the villa, he found that there were indeed people watching. Shisheng sent a message to Liang Ji's room location. He then climbed in through the window. School. Liang Ge jumped in fright when she saw Shisheng climb in through the window. She then covered her mouth and pointed at the room. Shisheng took out a jammer from his space and threw it on the table. It's fine now. Senior. Why are you here? Liang Ge immediately let go of her hand when she heard Shisheng say that it was fine, her face full of worry. How long have they been watching you? Since this afternoon. When I came back from school, I found people waiting outside, saying that they wanted to check the wiring. Liang Ji's villa had good security. Every 6 months, they would check for all kinds of hidden dangers. However, the last check was 2 months ago, so they wouldn't check again so soon. Liang Ge was just a young girl, so she didn't dare to challenge them and let them in. In the end, they really did check her wiring and even gave her a receipt. Liang Ge was a meticulous girl. After those people left, she looked at the places they'd checked. In the end, she found strange things in several places. She took pictures of them and asked her father. Her father was in the electronics business, so he recognized them at a glance. They were listening devices. Her family had never made enemies, and she hadn't heard her father mention any recent business competition. So when she thought about what had happened at school, she guessed that it was most likely related to Shisheng, so she didn't tell her father. Pretty smart girl. Shisheng patted Liang Ji's head. Liang Ge rubbed it and smiled embarrassedly, but also somewhat proudly. I'm the only one who's close to you at school. If they can't find you, they'll definitely come looking for me. Stick these talismans around the villa. Shisheng took out several strange talismans. Take a leave of absence and don't go to school. Stay at home. Huh? Won't that make them even more suspicious? I'm only ensuring your safety. Whether they're suspicious or not isn't within my scope of consideration. She wasn't afraid of them. Oh. Liang Ge took the talismans and flipped through them curiously. What kind of talismans are these? They're for defense. Defense? Then wouldn't she be unable to leave the villa forever? What would happen to her parents then? Shisheng took out a pendant and wrapped it around Liang Ji's neck, helping her put it on. Liang Ge was wrapped in Shisheng's arms. She sneaked a peek at his side profile, her heart suddenly racing. Senior looked so handsome like this. Don't drop it. Shisheng's fingertips brushed across her neck as he placed the pendant inside her clothes. Okay. Senior gave it to her so she definitely wouldn't drop it. How many people are in your family? Shisheng asked again. Liang Ge blushed as she said, just my daddy and mommy. Shisheng nodded and handed her 2 identical pendants. Let your parents wear them. Don't break them. You have to return them to me. Huh? She had to return them? Seeing Liang Ji's shocked expression, Shisheng's mood suddenly improved. You don't have to return them, but your parents have to return them to me. Hearing that she didn't have to return them, Liang Ge immediately beamed with joy. Senior had given her something, so she was so happy. Asterisk, it's the weekend. Let's get high request votes. Request rewards. Chapter 278. Shisheng only left the villa after making sure that Liang Ge had pasted the talisman all around. She hurried through the night, the wind blowing her skirt and causing it to flutter. Very good. Now it's time to find out which little bitch was plotting against I. Shisheng returned to the academy. There was no light at night, making the place look like a giant beast prowling in the darkness. The BHA hadn't retreated yet, and Shisheng saw several people lying in ambush. Shisheng avoided them and circled around the academy. Silence. The academy was terrifyingly quiet. Shisheng looked through every inch of the school, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. He jumped onto the tallest building in the academy, but there was already someone there. Shisheng raised an eyebrow, blue light flashing in his eyes. What was the male lead doing here? Zuelai turned around and glanced at her coolly. You still dare to come back to the academy? Shisheng took a few steps forward. They can't catch me. What's there to be afraid of? Zualai. That arrogant tone was really asking for a beating. Shisheng tilted his head curiously. Why are you reminding me? What was wrong with the male lead? It seems you don't know anything, Zualai said in a low voice after a long pause. Shisheng was dumbfounded. Know what? Zualai turned around and looked at her. A black gold invitation in his hand. He handed it to Shisheng. The vampire banquet is about to begin. Vampire banquet? Wasn't that? It was a banquet between vampire hunters and vampires. The official explanation was that it would allow vampire hunters and vampires to interact better. But every vampire banquet had a bad ending, and was eventually cancelled. Why was it being restarted now? Some vampires have impure thoughts. We're in a dangerous situation now. Be careful. Seeing that Shisheng didn't accept the invitation, Zualai put it on an abandoned desk. Purebred vampires have always been the target of their jealousy. I don't want to be your enemy. Purebred vampires were different from other vampires in terms of ideology and politics. But because they were powerful, they occupied an important position among the vampires. Therefore, even though the purebred blood breeds had a high status within the blood breeds, they were not very popular. Shisheng's eyes swiveled. So you're saying the vampires are targeting me? Zualai's expression was somewhat gloomy. Not necessarily. Not necessarily? Wasn't it definitely a vampire? Shisheng narrowed his eyes. That's not the point. Zualai, don't beat around the bush. What do you want? There was also competition between the purebred vampires, not to mention that she and Zualai had a little conflict. Zualai wouldn't be so kind as to remind her. I do have something I need your help with. Since Shisheng had already brought it up, Zualai didn't try to hide it anymore. There's another important reason for this blood breed banquet, which is to elect a new blood breed king. I need your support. Shisheng sneered. There hasn't been a king in 100 years. Why do you want to choose one now? Ever since the blood breeds and the humans signed the Treaty of Alliance and the death of the previous king, the blood breeds king had not been elected. The blood breeds had always been managed by a few grand princes, and their authority was scattered, forming a stable balance. I suddenly received the news. If not for the news, he wouldn't have risked choosing a woman like me Nai. All these years, he had been ostracized by the blood breeds. Although he had secretly nurtured some of them, they were still not as strong as the support of the purebred vampires. Shisheng rubbed his chin and thought for a moment before saying, I'm not interested in participating in this kind of thing, but since they've offended me, I don't mind exterminating some trash. Zualai thought about it and understood what Shisheng meant. She wouldn't help him, but she wouldn't make things difficult for him either. The prerequisite was that he didn't offend her. If those old fogies heard such an arrogant tone, they would probably jump up and beat her to death. Zualai was somewhat disappointed, but he also understood that the chances of her helping him were close to zero. After all, the family behind her. Knowing that it was impossible, Zualai didn't stay any longer and left after reminding Shisheng to be careful. Shisheng took the invitation, but didn't open it. Instead, he twirled it around his finger and put it back into his space. A storm was brewing. After standing on the rooftop for a moment, Shisheng leapt off the building and disappeared into the night. Shisheng didn't show himself in the dark. The vampire hunters seemed to be somewhat anxious and finally retreated from the academy. But as soon as they left, another blood-sucking incident occurred. This time, it was none other than Ai Wei's roommate. The academy, which hadn't yet calmed down, immediately burst into an uproar and demanded an explanation from the academy. Some parents even directly took their children home, while others directly transferred them to another school. The academy was frantic. Principal's office. Mr. Du, you promised us that this kind of thing would never happen again. How do you explain this now? The principal angrily questioned Du Ju. Du Ju's expression was unsightly. The people he had arranged had all pretended to retreat, but there were still people hiding in the dark. But under such circumstances, someone had still died. He felt that he had been provoked. Mr. Du, you don't have the ability to do this. I suggest that you send someone more experienced. The principal clearly had some understanding of the BHA, and his words were full of energy. Principal, I'll take care of this matter. Ju raised his head and met the principal's gaze. Beneath his spectacles, his eyes flashed with a cold light. The principal was stunned by that gaze, and his aura suddenly weakened by half. Give me an exact time. The principal took a step back. 3 days, Ju said. If I can't catch her in 3 days, I'll be at the mercy of the BHA. All right, then I'll give you 3 more days. Ju walked out of the principal's office and rubbed his temples tiredly. He hadn't rested much these past few days. When he returned to the temporary gathering place, Ju's men immediately surrounded him. Leader, how did it go? We fought for 3 days. If we can't catch Minai in 3 days, we'll all have to return to the BHA to receive punishment. The group exchanged glances. They had been waiting for so long, but they hadn't even caught a glimpse of Minai's shadow. Isn't that Shein by her side? Someone whispered. Previously, they had seen that their leader was rather wary of that man, and had even given up on Minai. We didn't have enough evidence last time, but we have enough evidence this time. We're just following the rules. Moreover, Shein wasn't by her side. Ju pushed his spectacles up and restrained the cold light in his eyes. He calmly said, We don't have much time. She's definitely still in the academy. Tonight, we'll lure her out. Leader, there's a call for you. The people surrounding him dispersed to do their work, and Ju went to answer the call. Leader, we discovered a tomb in the northern suburbs of the city. We might need you to come take a look. What tomb? He was so busy right now that he didn't have the time to look at a tomb. We're not sure either. It looks quite old and inside. I can't explain it clearly over the phone. Leader, it's better if you come in person. Ju rubbed his forehead. 3 seconds later he said, All right, I'll be there in the afternoon. After a few more words, Ju hung up. Northern suburbs of the city tomb. What was Shein trying to tell him? Or was it a trap? Good morning. Chapter 279. Of course, Shisheng hadn't left the school yet. She was watching the male and female leads. She was definitely not a spectator on purpose. She was just taking a breather on the rooftop, but who knew that the male and female leads would come up? As a little princess whose concealment skills had already reached the level of a grandmaster, it was easy to provoke her if she wanted to go unnoticed by Zuolai and Ai Wei. Ai Wei was probably unwilling, for she walked very slowly. Her legs were even trembling. Shisheng propped up his chin with a look of wonder. If the female lead was so scared, why didn't she go home? Wasn't she looking for trouble? Are you that afraid of me? Zuolai looked a little hurt. Ai Wei bit her lip. Why are you looking for me? Hurry up and say it. If Sikong can't find me, he'll get anxious. Zuolai took a few steps forward. Ai Wei quickly retreated. Her eyes filled with resistance and fear. Zuoyan froze in place, staring at Ai Wei in disbelief. She's actually afraid of me to this extent. If things went according to the plot, with me Nai stirring things up on Sikong Sa's side, Ai Wei would interact with Zuolai out of jealousy and slowly fall in love with him. But Shisheng didn't try to ruin her relationship with Sikong Sa at all, so Ai Wei and Zuolai didn't make any progress at all. On the contrary, because of what happened in the academy, he started to resist Zuolai. Zuolai felt terrible, but he still said what he wanted to say. Come with me. You'll get hurt if you stay with Sikong Sa. I'm on very good terms with Sikong. Zuolai, it's better if we don't contact each other in the future, Ai Wei whispered. Hurry up and leave the academy. If they find out that you're Ai Wei, you still care about me. Come with me. I'll protect you well. Zuolai lost control and grabbed Ai Wei's arm. Zuolai, you're hurting me. Ai Wei struggled. Zuolai acted as if he hadn't heard anything. He continued to hold Ai Wei in a death grip, his expression somewhat sinister. Sikong Sa isn't a good person. Believe me. Zuolai, unable to break free, Ai Wei could only endure the pain. Her face was taut as she said, Sikong is a very nice person. He treats me very well. Weren't you the one who helped me chase after him back then? Why are you saying such things now? Zuolai suddenly let go of Ai Wei and retreated a few steps as if he'd suffered a blow. Yes, he was the one who had sent her to Sikong Sa. Ai Wei clutched her arm, bit her lip, and backed away. Take care. Just as she was about to turn around, she was suddenly pulled into a cold embrace and her mouth was covered by someone else's. Ai Wei's eyes widened. Her hand moved faster than her brain, and she slapped Zuolai across the face. While Zuolai was still in a daze, she broke free from his grip. Zuolai, you've gone crazy. Ai Wei wiped her mouth with all her might, her tears falling uncontrollably. Zuolai looked at her without saying a word. His eyes were filled with disbelief, bitterness, and regret. Ai Wei panicked under his gaze. She turned around and ran down the stairs. She liked Sikong-sa. Zuolai was a vampire. Ai Wei kept repeating this in her heart as she stumbled down the stairs. When she was going downstairs, she missed a step on the ladder and lost her balance. Just as she was about to fall, a figure suddenly appeared beside her and firmly supported her. Ai Wei was still in a state of shock. It took her quite a while to turn her eyes and clearly see the person who had caught her. Her fear and grievance immediately poured out, and she began to cry softly. Sikong, silly girl, what's wrong? Did someone bully you? Sikong cupped Ai Wei's face and made her look at him. It's nothing. Ai Wei mumbled. If Sikong knew that she had gone to see Zuolai, he'd definitely be angry. It's just that I was a little scared when I thought about what happened last night. I'm here, don't be scared. Sikong-sa gently wiped away the tears on her face. You won't look good if you cry. Don't cry. Ai Wei responded in a low voice. Sikong-sa pulled Ai Wei into his arms, his gaze casually sweeping up the stairs. Zuolai stood there with his head lowered, looking somewhat pitiful. Shisheng jumped out from the shadows. Since you want her so much, why don't you kidnap her and bring her back? Zuolai jerked his head up, his brows furrowed. Why are you here? I've always been here. Shisheng shrugged. It's just that you haven't noticed. You can consider my suggestion just now. Young man, I have high hopes for you. Actually, Shisheng wanted to ask him to pick another flower, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. What did it have to do with him? The one in her family was nowhere to be found. In the original plot, the female lead was half-hearted and treated the male lead as a spare tire. After breaking up with Sikong, she immediately threw herself into the male lead's arms. Zuolai lowered his eyes. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of taking her back by force. But what use would that be? She didn't like him. Zuolai left the academy and returned to the vampire territories. Shisheng had nothing to watch, so he could only continue looking for that little bitch who'd framed him. I'm not a petty person if I don't take revenge. How dare you frame me? You must be tired of living. At night, Shisheng watched as Duju and that bunch of idiots set up traps below. There was still no movement even at dawn. Shisheng leaned against a tree trunk, bored of waiting. Just as he was about to leave, a black shadow suddenly fell from the canopy above him. Shisheng. The iron sword suddenly appeared and slashed at the black shadow. The black shadow shrank back into the canopy, causing the leaves to rustle. Then it disappeared without a trace. That scared me to death. Shisheng was truly frightened. She was also a human, so it was normal for something to suddenly appear. But what was that thing? It actually didn't approach her without making a sound. Goosebumps broke out all over Shisheng's body, and he glanced up at the canopy. It was pitch black up there and he couldn't see anything. That thing had either been here before she arrived, or its concealment skills were higher than hers. Just as Shisheng was feeling puzzled, a scream suddenly rang out in the distance. It was filled with terror. Shisheng rushed over with the iron sword in tow. But what he saw was a group of people surrounding a black shadow. He was wrapped in black from head to toe. If he was dressed in white, he'd definitely be a mummy. The black shadow was holding a girl in its arms, and the scream had come from the girl's mouth. Minai, there's nowhere for you to run today. The people surrounding the black shadow immediately shouted. Save me, save me. The girl in the shadow's arms begged for help, her face filled with terror. The black shadow suddenly approached the girl, and bit her neck amidst her screams. The sound of swallowing was especially clear. Shisheng felt a little nauseous. For some reason, she recalled the blood Shiin had forced her to drink. She didn't feel repulsed by the sight of blood or the smell of it. But that sticky liquid slid down her throat and slowly down her esophagus. Shisheng took a deep breath and suppressed the violent emotions in her heart. By the time she looked up again, a fight had already broken out. The black shadow was surrounded. Someone approached the black shadow and suddenly removed the bandage on his head. The black bandage unraveled, revealing the face covered by it. Shisheng's pupils constricted. Chapter 280. Who was she? Shisheng was completely dumbfounded. Why was there someone who looked exactly like Minai? System, come out. I think we really need to have a good chat about life. That idiot system must have randomly added another plot. Host, I've reminded you before that the plot's difficulty has increased, so it's normal for anything to happen. Normal my ass. Was the plot's difficulty increased for you to randomly add plots? Who was this little bitch? Tell me. Host, I didn't randomly add plots. These plots were all preset, so how could it randomly change them? The host thought too highly of it. Then tell me who that little bitch was. She clearly remembered that the original host's setting was to be a loner. Loner, you know that? She had no blood relatives. Did this little bitch who looked like a twin pop out from a crack in a rock? Host, you're so scary. This system chooses to shut down and go offline. Shisheng didn't get a response from the system, so he fell into a state of frenzy. Shisheng swung the iron sword in his hand and charged out. When a person suddenly rushed out, the people over there were startled. But when they saw the person charging out and fighting with the person they were besieging, they became even more suspicious. When they got a clear look at the person's face, they were all shocked. Why were there two Minai? Team leader, hurry up and come back. There's a demon. Minai number 2 probably didn't expect Shisheng to suddenly charge out, so she was caught off guard and was beaten down by Shisheng. Is it fun to pretend to be me? You dare to use I's face to do bad things? Fuck, I haven't even done that before. Why are you hiding? If you're so good at pretending to be I, then don't hide. Shisheng was probably really angry, for he attacked viciously. Minai number 2 saw that she couldn't beat him, and wanted to run. But before she could take 2 steps, Shisheng stopped her. Why are you running? Minai number 2. If I don't run, am I going to wait to be chopped into mincemeat? She didn't know that she was this strong. And that sword. It was really lucky that she was able to scare her just now. Big sis. Minai number 2 quickly calmed down and smiled. Do you want to talk about this in front of so many people? Sister, you're a big-headed ghost. Why didn't I know that I had such a big sister? Why can't you say it in front of me? Shisheng replied gruffly with a fierce look on his face. Minai number 2. Wasn't she curious that I called her big sister? Wasn't she curious that I had her face? This reaction was not what she had expected. Minai number 2 grew anxious when she saw the people trying to surround them. Big sis, they're from the BHA. Let's leave first. Shisheng sneered. A bunch of idiots scared you to this extent, and you still have the nerve to call me sister. Minai number 2's lips twitched. How come she didn't know that Minai was such an arrogant person? He actually dared to call the BHA a bunch of retards. If they were really retarded, would the vampires have signed an alliance treaty with them 100 years ago? Minai number 2's expression turned cold as she attacked Shisheng, but this was only a feint. When Shisheng was about to counterattack, she abruptly dashed towards the roof. Shisheng raised his iron sword and watched as her figure disappeared from the roof. His mind was filled with, where did this idiot come from? Shisheng was in a bad mood and didn't want to deal with people who were courting death. Before those people could even get into their attacking positions, he also jumped off the roof and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. The BHA members who had been completely ignored. What amazing jumping ability. Come down and fight me one-on-one if you have the guts. Shisheng chased after Minai number 2, but her aura disappeared near a small building. Shisheng stood outside the building and looked at it with one hand propping his chin up. The building only had 4 floors and was very old. Who knew how long it had been there? It looked very strange to be sandwiched in the middle of a cluster of tall buildings. Shisheng looked at it for a moment, then dragged his iron sword inside. The inside of the building looked like it had been abandoned, but there was a faint smell of blood coming from inside. The deeper he went, the stronger the smell of blood became. Shisheng used his iron sword to knock on the scrap metal inside, the sound echoing into the distance. Shisheng looked around. This place looked a bit like a dilapidated laboratory building. He walked and stopped, and finally stopped in front of a rusty iron door. He used his iron sword to cut off the chain on the door, and the door creaked. A foul stench and the smell of blood came from inside. The scene inside the door was completely different from the outside. The equipment inside was all brand new, and the foul stench came from a corpse on an operating table. Shisheng frowned and walked closer to take a look. It was a vampire. Someone was secretly researching vampires? Shisheng didn't find anyone in this dilapidated building, but he saw several clean laboratories that were obviously in use. Why did that Minai number 2 lure her here? Click, click. A series of sounds rang out around Shisheng. Shisheng's face didn't show any reaction as he stared calmly outside the building. A black shadow flashed. The woman wearing her face smiled sweetly and waved at him, her lips opening and closing. Shisheng couldn't hear what she was saying, but she seemed to remember something as well. She flashed away, then came back a moment later, holding a piece of white paper. A few words were written on the paper with bright red liquid. Take care of yourself. It was a very meaningful sentence. Shisheng cocked his head to the left and right, the corners of his mouth slowly curling up. It was like mockery and disdain. Outside, Minai number 2's expression changed, and she quickly disappeared with the paper. Shisheng walked to the shattered glass window and knocked on the air with his sword. Bzb. A resistance came from the iron sword. What were they trying to do? Shisheng raised his sword, deep in thought. Not far from the building, a figure stood under a green tree. The shadow obscured his face, but from the figure, it was clear that it was a man. He held a pair of binoculars, which was pointed at Shisheng's location. Master, we've trapped her. Minai number 2 appeared out of nowhere and stood respectfully and carefully behind the man. Why aren't we killing her? Minai number 2 asked in confusion. If they'd already trapped her, it would be easy for her master to kill her. She's still useful. The man's voice was a bit hoarse, and it was impossible to tell if he was happy or angry. That's not something you should be asking. Minai number 2's expression changed, and she lowered her head in fear. Ling Xiang has overstepped her boundaries. Please forgive me, master. Let's go. The man put away the binoculars and turned to leave. Ling Xiang glanced in the direction of the house before following the man's footsteps and disappearing into the night. Shisheng, you promised to be my mother. Why did you have to lock me up? Little fairy. Didn't I just want you to show off? How can you show off without a reason? Shisheng. Although I feel like something's off, it does make sense. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.